Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Bronze Reaper podcast. I'm your host, Rosalind Perkins, and today we have a great show. Today, let me fix my chair. We have a great show today. Nick Fuentes versus Hunter Biden. Both of these people have abnormal pasts. One has past of drug use, hookers, and embezzlement. These are allegations, everybody. And also, the other one has the pussy, white supremacy, and actually not really being white. So we have a great show, man. This is a debate of which one is which one is more of the pot calling the kettle black, if you ask me. But to me, it was a great interview. I didn't really watch all of it, so this will be my first time watching it with you, like fully. Give me a second, everybody. There we go. So this will be actually my first time actually watching it. Let me fix the camera. This will actually be my first time watching it with y'all. So don't mind me if like I'll pause for a second to try to get what's going on. I'm also actually I'm still also still fixing things. So again, I apologize. Let's see, yada yada yada. Okay, we're doing actually good. But like I said, this is gonna be a good podcast if you ask me. Sorry about yesterday. We got some type of suspension thing, so they canceled the show. So again, I apologize and I understand it was probably because of the what's the joint? It was more of the probably the Shannon Sharp joint, and I understand. Thank you, thank you, you two, for even emailing me saying that yeah, you can't use certain products, and I appreciate it. Mm. But with this, what we have here, it's gonna be really different because we usually deal with white supremacy and with black Americans or immigrations, just a little bit of everything. But I think personally, this will be actually very great. What they're going to be talking about. Honestly, I have no dog in the fight. I think they're both fucking quacks. But we'll see how this show actually picks up. Like I said, I have no dog in the fight. I have no guy that I'm cheering for. I'm no one's hero. So so yeah, it's gonna be a good one. Let me finish doing what I'm doing. Let's see, yada yada yada. Give me a second, even media.
All right, I'm almost done, everybody. We'll start in like 5 minutes. Um, but this will be questions about. There will be some Black American questions, so don't get it. You like, oh well, this is something different. No, this is about Hunter Biden. The one we call a crackhead, the guy who had a crack, swinger party. But I'm gonna say this: shout out to both of them because out of a lot of stuff, this does show maturity. This does shows maturity, to a certain extent, where you could have two, two people talk it out, So shout out to both of them. Let's see. Let's see. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm just fixing up a little thing, just the basics, But yeah, like I said, it's a good maturity thing if you ask me. When it comes to Nick Fuentes, he's trying to be mature, and that's the only thing we could kind of give him is the maturity thing. But also, this will be an American question. I know a lot of y'all don't like these type of. I like these shows, and the reason why I do like these shows is because. Give me a second. Let me see. Oh, y'all already getting busy out here. What's going on, Robin and Randall? Okay, I see y'all right now. What's going on, everybody? I see you, Rosema. Yeah, yeah. St. Michael's. He's not my friend right now. So I would say this, Rando. This would have been a great story. This would have been a great topic question for him because he always talks about America this, America that, America. He don't say America. He said America. So this would have been something great for him that he would have loved. You know, um, you know me. I love doing the. I always tell people I do love doing the black questions and stuff like that, but sometimes we have to switch it up and see what's actually really is going on in this world. I'm changing the theme of this right now, so just give me a second. All right, right there. Yeah. No, I don't like that. Let's see, yada yada yada. This might be a little bit better. Let's see size. Yeah, so we'll be starting in a second. I'll start reading y'all chat soon. It's I hope St. Michael comes. Yeah, me too. Me too, Robert. Me too, Robert. It's just let me tell you what it is. A lot of white supremacists are sensitive. And the reason why I say they are sensitive is because they cannot adapt to a Black American culture. Black American culture is joking around, laughing, ha 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 ha. A nigga get mad, we laugh even harder, But some people are not used to that culture. So I do take that into give me a second. Let me hide that. I do kind of take that into, as an advice where like I know that, St. Michael's can't handle it, but a St. Michael's have a thing with doing the same thing to somebody and but okay. Um, he has a thing of doing that to people, but when people do it back to him, it's he gets offended, and I always have to tell him, I was like, "Yo, I hope you can take the punches too, because my audience is a little bit different. My audience is mixed, So, and what I mean by mix is there are some people who are white supremacists. There are some people that Pan Africans, immigrants, just the whole 9 yards, and if you can do that to somebody, then you gotta understand that it will be done to you sooner or later. Might not be today, might not be tomorrow. It'll be someday. You know, um, And that's all I have to say about that. But give me a second. There, right there, right there. All right, we should be done. But let's get into this. Let me start reading y'all chats. See how y'all doing. We'll start in like 5-10 minutes. What's going on, Robin? Robin, you here early, man? Okay, player. What's going on, Rando? How's everything, player? I hope Ohio's chilling. I seen you, Wilson. Say, yeah, St. Michael's. Yeah, he got a bad one. It got a little teary eye for him, man. He didn't like that, but I explained to him. I didn't say it. I said you got to blame the Moors. The Moors created all of that other stuff, and some of those people believe in Yakubs. So you can't be mad at me. I'm just all I do is the research that I get. I say like, yo, this is what people say. I even and what's so dope about me, we show videos on the people who say this crazy shit. You know, do I think it's true? I don't know. I never really I never thought that far into thinking white people were wildebeest and shit like that. Malaikum salam Ali. Salute, salute. Yeah, he cried. He got off and cried like a baby. But I didn't expect him to be that mad. I'm like, St. Michael's, I didn't say it. I was like, why are you mad at me? I said, why aren't you mad at the Moors that you praise so much? He was like, it's false information. I was like, okay, it could be false information, but I didn't say it, St. Michael's. Jesus Christ. And he's still yelling. That man was still yelling. Let me see 1 second. Yada yada yada. Walaikum salam. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Walaikum salam. Yeah, but yeah. You can't get too mad about stuff like that. And I always tell people you can't get too much. You can't get too mad about what people think about you. If that man, you're gonna be mad most of your life. If I and I'm gonna be personally honest, if I cared about what a lot of people said about me, I'd probably be the saddest motherfucker ever. You know. And I have to say it that way because no matter if you're doing bad or good, there's gonna be people that's gonna judge you regardless, and that's just how life is. Life is like that. And I always tell people all the time, don't take the shit too serious. I mean, I probably be the don't take that shit too serious. This is what this life is. We're not fucking, fucking. We don't live in the animal kingdom where that shit doesn't really matter. And it's more of survival of the fittest. Let's see, yada yada yada. What's up, Ali? Yada yada. Let me see. I'm just telling people we live right now. Did I click that? I probably did click that shit. But yeah, one thing I want y'all to do to pay attention on this reaction video today. I want y'all to pay attention on the conversation. No matter if you like them or dislike them, or if you don't trust the nigga because he's a crackhead, or you don't trust this other guy because this kid is, he's on the down low or something. Allegedly love bussy. I want y'all to hear the conversation and what they're talking about. I think that's the most important thing. A lot of people don't listen to the conversation and they just dislike to dislike. Is it gonna be hard? Probably. Ain't everything is never easy. I will say that. Give me a second. Uh, yeah. Just subscription benefits. Oh shit! I gotta update this. All right, so after the show, I will update my X. But yeah, I always tell people all the time, man. It's these type of conversations we just need to listen to, and take feelings out of it. Because if we add feelings into a lot of this stuff, we would have problems. And that's just how I feel about certain things. Let's see. Now live you know, but yeah, it'd be like that, everybody. Sometimes you just don't like a motherfucker. Like me, I don't like Kanye West, but at the end of the day, I still listen to what he has to say. He might make some type of sense. Or you can be like, oh yeah, this motherfucker got that shit from somebody. You know, and it's cool. It's cool if you get the shit from somebody, but we can't act like it was your knowledge. You know, give me a second, everybody. Isn't it on YouTube? Yeah, but it's just we can't act like Kanye got that knowledge from himself, and we can't act like Con- we can't act like Ye is Tupac. You know, we can't act like this nigga's Tupac, and Pac had a whole bunch of knowledge because he was around the Black Panther, and we already know who his godmother was. So this is what people say. You know, we can't act like we just can't act like that. That shit is crazy. You know, give me one more second, and we'll be ready to go. Yada yada yada. Yeah. All right, we're ready. Um, so again, this is gonna be a great topic. I think a lot of people are gonna pay attention to. I think the details of the conversation. I believe they're gonna have a great conversation. And I think this conversation probably should have happened like probably 2 years ago. You know, I would have never chose Hunter Biden or Nick Fuentes because Biden's family is a political family. Nick Fuentes is an uneducated college dropout. You know, that learned a lot of his political views from white supremacists. You know, it's not that he didn't get a proper education. It's just the way how he used his education that made him uneducated. And plus, he don't know what the fuck he's talking about half the time. And you might probably can see that in some of these debates that he does do. But let's get going. Oh yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment in the live chat. Um, Also, I need you to share to 5 people. It could be 5 platforms, 5 people. It can be 3 platforms, 2 people. It can be 3 people, 2 platforms, or whatever how you want to do it. Just share. And also, if you want to donate, you can donate to my. Hold on one second. You can donate to my GoFundMe for my GoFundMe for my short film, and or you could donate to, was it PayPal, or you could cash at me. But we also have super chat. So if you want to send it to super chat and you want to put something cool on there, definitely I'll put it on the screen once you super chat me. I mean super chat. And we'll give you a shout out. I'm debating this week, should we do shots Fridays? So every time somebody super chat, cash app, GoFundMe, anything, I'll take a shot. So yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do tomorrow. I mean Friday. So thank you. Give me one second. And I'll put the links in the No Reaper, we trust crackheads. He said, "No Reaper, we trust crackheads." Shout out to Ali. Shout out to Robin. Let's see. I thought that was clickbait. Oh no, no, it was a clickbait. They actually had a conversation. You telling me Hunter was on? Yeah, we're gonna watch it today. Let me see. Let me put the Cash App and all that other cool stuff on there. Um, Tomorrow it will be a Pan African show, so I know these Pan Africans don't like these type of shows and stuff because they're not really political, not even political. They're not minded of this country. So, and I get it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it comes with the territory of certain things. Some people are gonna like something, some people are not. And I get it. But let's start the show, everyone. Let's get
level of deplatforming. Look,
about the so-called 6 million Jews that died. And so white supremacists not.
we can get there, okay?
The kind of first question that I had whenever I caught wind that you wanted to do an interview like this is, why now? What made you want to sit down for this kind of interview?
Well, I think it's an interesting conversation to have all of us here. And, I think it's a moment in our country when there's a lot of realignment. I think that people recognize, especially in the past couple of years, I'm like a non-conventional critic, maybe, of what's happening. And so I think it'll be an interesting, productive conversation. I think it'll be different.
But I mean, specifically, because we kind of share a publicist, I heard that you wanted to kind of... Okay. we have a publicist that you hit up, and you said that you wanted to talk to someone who would give you kind of...
Yeah, Randa, I will say this. For all the immigrants that don't know what a tether is, it is an immigrant officer Tatum, if that makes sense to y'all. We don't just call you a tether because you're an immigrant. We call you a tether because you don't stay on code with people who got you here. So that's what a tether is. It's an officer Tatum that's an immigrant, basically,
a fair shot to clear up some things and maybe some misconceptions about you and the things you believe.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, I'm somebody who I think like you, actually, maybe we have this in common, is kind of pigeonholed in a certain way for things that we've done in the past or things that we've said.
Yeah, I'm a crackhead.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm racist, right?
I got pigeonholed there. Mine is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mine's a little true. Maybe a little, no. But yeah, so I think it'd be good to clear up some of the misrepresentations and put out something accurate.
So what do you think is the most misrepresented thing about you?
Well, I think really the whole image everybody has about me. When you mentioned me, I think on a recent show, you said you want to ask me, why are you a Nazi?
Yeah.
And that's how everybody knows me. Everybody thinks of me as a white supremacist Nazi, and I don't think that's really true at all. I think that we definitely have different values. I mean, you're more from the left, I'm more from the right, but I don't think I'm a hater. I'm not a hateful person.
It is Heil Hitler Friday, Heil Hitler, all my niggas Nazis.
Hitler was very fucking cool.
Yes, I do.
One of them.
And I'm tired of pretending he's not.
So what's the thing about, I guess, traditional Nazism that you think you disagree with the most?
Well, it's a non-Christian ideology. So, I mean, look, I believe that race is real, as the Nazis did, but I don't think it utterly defines a person. As a Christian, I think we're all created beings. I do believe there's such a thing as a universal human community. And so I think it's a cruel ideology. I've said this on my show, by the way, but I mean, that would maybe be the fundamental.
Did you always feel that way?
Always, yeah, absolutely.
So even whenever you were younger and stuff?
I did, but you got to recognize times have changed. 10 years ago, we had a totally different political world. The regulation and policing of speech, what you would call wokeness, I think was at an all-time high when I got started as a very young man.
Wait, what you would call wokeness?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think, would you?
I will always say this. Woke was a black word. It was basically saying yo, stay woke, stay on code. Keep your head on a swivel when black people used to say that shit until the liberals did hijack the word. I will say that, the liberals did hijack that word and made it some fuckery. I will be honest about that. That is true. Woke wasn't what woke is now. Woke is nigga, you have a tenfold on your head, talk about niggas that's trying to read your brain. You know? That's what woke is now, but back in the days, that was for black people to stay on code with people. And you know how people do it, you know, and this is why the movie Sinners was made, you know, because everybody was going to the cookout, you know. Woke culture was very damaging to freedom. But you gotta understand this, Robin, too. What y'all turn what the conservative turned freedom of speech into, they turned it into harassment. Like what a lot of your conservative people do, they harass people. You know, so it's not really freedom of speech when you intentionally harassing and insulting people. Like for example, Shiloh Hendrick. You know, if you would have done that to my kids, I'm gonna punch you in your fucking face. These hands is equal rights. You know, so it's you're not gonna come around here harassing me for no reason. I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. You know, I'm not gonna punch her in her face. You know, I got a little bit more dignity. I'll slap the shit out of her. You know, because who am I to be, giving a girl a tune up? You know, I can't do shit like that. You know, I'll slap the shit out of Shallow. As a parent, I would have done that and would have went to jail. You know, because my kids is my responsibility. You know, and that's what I'm talking about. A lot of this freedom of speech, y'all, and it's okay. But Robin, you got to understand, a lot of those white supremacists are saying a lot of the same shit that you're saying. Freedom of speech, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. But was this freedom of speech when, what's his name, Jordan Neely was talking to himself on the train, and Daniel Penny just came up and choked him out and killed him? Then and the thing about it, he was skilled at doing shit like that, then killed him. You know, so to me, Robert, I'm gonna say this. To me, it's one side, and I'm gonna put yours up because YouTube doesn't see what you're saying. You know, you say woke culture was very dangerous to freedom of speech. I know you meant to say freedom of speech, but freedom of speech. Like I said, a lot of y'all like I say, a lot of y'all white supremacists, and not you, Robin, you're not a white supremacist, but a lot of the white supremacists turned it into harassment. You know, so what should we do about harassment? You know, and especially these cops are not locking these people up for all this harassment. Y'all running in a hotel, y'all running into fucking barbershops, talk about debate me, bro, and shit like that. Like, what type of shit is you on? You know, this is what black Americans thinking. Like, yo, what type of shit is these people on? Like, why are you harassing me from having a great day? It's like, and this is where a lot of black people always say, a white man's fear is a black man's joy. You know, when a black man's having a good time, laughing, you know, talking to everybody, even talking to their white counterparts. There's gonna be that white man that be like, "Oh no, this shit gotta stop. Them motherfuckers is up to something." You know, so I think I'm gonna say this. What you said, Robert, you are right, but you are also wrong at the same time. Both of y'all damaged freedom of speech. Y'all damaged it. The conservative and the liberal damaged freedom of speech. You know, the liberals turned it into a laughing stock. The conservative turned it into a harassment component. I remember like back in the days, people used to try to holler at girls. They Until the liberals turned it into catcalling. Then now white supremacists is trying to exercise their rights to harass people. You know, this shit isn't. Y'all gotta understand too, Robert. A lot of this shit isn't. This shit ain't the 50s and 60s where you can harass people. You know, there's people actually really putting hands on people like me. I put hands on people for harassing me. You know, when you tell me, when I say please leave me the fuck alone, and you don't leave me the fuck alone, you want to do all you chimping out all this other stuff, and I put my hands on you. nigga, you instigated the whole situation. This shit went left because you want to exercise freedom of speech with harassment. You're gonna run into, and like I said, this is why I'm gonna say this. Even in the black community, this is why a lot of nigga shit happen. People don't know how to leave motherfuckers alone. Just leave motherfuckers alone and yo, get your money out here. Why the fuck are you harassing people? And I'm gonna say this: Chud the Builder exposed that. Chud the Builder showed you how to harass people. You know, so I get it, Robin. I get you want to say what you want to say, but you got to also understand too. A lot of this stuff has consequences to it. The consequences, you might lose your job. Consequences, you might be ostracized. You know, and it's you got to take you got to take you got to take the stupid prizes with the great surprises. You know, like let me give you an example. Do you I can see Robin. You love freedom of speech. Since you love freedom of speech, do you think Colin Kaepernick should have lost his job, even though he was probably the fifth best quarterback at that time? And I'm talking about completion percentage. What was it? Completion percentage, he was higher than most people in the NFL. Do you believe he should have lost his job for saying what he said? Because we're talking about freedom of speech now. You know, that's what we have to talk. What's going on, Italian and Clever and Joya? I don't know how to say your name. You got to uphold and stereotype only using you to map on the student because of white men who decided to die. Is that what you believe? Let me tell you something, Italian, Mr. Italian Enjoyment. You just became white like 80 years ago. Let's talk facts now. You just became white 80 years ago. Years ago they were calling y'all wops and guineas. So what the fuck are you saying? That doesn't mean you. It doesn't mean you. Because you wasn't technically white. Because they believe you had Moorish blood. You just became white. So who is you to talk about what white people died? Technically, to white people, you are new booty. The fuck are you talking about? My people died. Nigga, you talking this French shit right now, nigga. Come on, no, we don't do that here. But thank you, man. I appreciate that stereotype. I'm quoting a stereotype, nigga. We see the shit. You know, but let's get back into this, man. We'll talk all day, every.
Do not
maybe
say there
him,
were
maybe
some
him, yeah.
excesses maybe in those days?
Yeah, in those days, I wasn't doing too well, so I wasn't paying much attention. Anyway, I would love to hear, and I'm not asking you to like retract everything that you've ever said and all, or any.
Well, Robin, you are the first one to say that he should have kept his job. And that's what you was. You was a WAP. Yes, without papers. Yeah, no, y'all just became white. Y'all just became white. In Italian, it is all right. It is all right, but I'm just saying this. You have no say so. Don't forget, you an Ellis Island baby. You're not even. You're not even a. You can't even call yourself an American. You have to say Italian American. And there's no shot. I'm not trying to shoot shots at you, but I'm just saying. You talking about white? You an Ellis Island baby. And shout out to the Italians. Italians get busy out here, but they make their money. But this is reality Italian. You know, I'm gonna call you IEE for your initials, man. Because I know I'm gonna keep on butchering your name, and I apologize for butchering your name, Italian. But I'm gonna call you IEE. Shout out to you too, man. But I get what you're saying. More Italians die in World War II than any other groups. Well, maybe y'all should have stopped getting killed. You know, like people die in war. What you want me to say, man? That's what. Let me tell you something. IEE. You can't give people American rights, then try to take it away from 'em when they say something that you don't like. This show is not about emotion. You know, European culture was built off Greece, but who did Greece steal? Who did Greece and Rome steal their culture from? IEE. That's a great point. But who did Greece and Rome steal their culture from? They stole it from Kemet, from Egypt. Thank you, Robin. A white man had to tell you that. This is what a white man said to you, IE. And shout out to you. You know, you probably just didn't know that. But it came from Egypt, Kemet. No, the house of bondage, as they used to call Egypt. That's what Egypt means. The house of bondage. You know? But yeah, you're still American. Don't get that fucked up, IEE. You're still American. You know, it's just you're an immigrant too. You know, you have dual citizens. You have dual loyalty. I have no dual loyalty. My lineage is America. I am American. I am the purest American. You could say, yeah, look at you could rock that Italian flag. And you don't even got an American flag, but you're talking American shit. You know? That's why I fucks with y'all Linguini niggas, you know? I fuck with y'all because you know what? Y'all got dual loyalty. Our loyalty is for America. That's our home. That's our land. You can't tell us to go back to Africa because we'll tell you we're in Africa. You could go to Italy and and live peacefully and free, drink wine all day. You know, eat the greatest pasta in the world. You know, eat the grapes. You know, yeah, you could be living life, man. I can't do that. My country is America, player. What's the American flag? You know, and this is how I say you. I know you got dual loyalty. I don't. You know, so what you're saying is cool. It sounds dope, but it's not true. You know, no. Even though I read Pinocchio and I like the movie, I know it's not a real movie. You know, I know Pinocchio couldn't be a real boy, but these are the conversations that we're having, buddy. There are structures in Europe. Yeah, the Moors built that. You welcome in advance. One of your forefathers, the Moors, built that. IEE. Yeah, one of the Moors built that. Why are you telling me, my nigga? Let me ask you a question. Since you got dual loyalty, why aren't you in Italy fighting them African immigrants? You know, and don't forget, a lot of these these African Italians, they play in your sports, they build your infrastructure, they put money in your country. Do they do crime? Absolutely. But let me ask you a question, IEE. Why aren't you in America? Why aren't you in Italy fighting? You know, like I said, it sounds cool, man. But why you got dual loyalty? We can see that. You talking about America with an Italian flag. So the question I'm gonna ask you this: what are you gonna do about the African migrants? Or are you just gonna let them take over the country? They already took over France, and I think they do them lovely in France. When they protest, they have that French flag. When they protest in your country, they have that Italian flag. And I will say this: them African migrants, they're more Italian than you because you know why? They're in Italy. You're in America, but you're worried about Italy issues or Italian issues. But hey, what do you, IEE? What are you doing? That's the question I'm gonna ask you, IE. What are you gonna do about those people? I think they building up your economy because y'all always had sucky economy. That's why y'all try to take Ethiopia. Y'all never had really the best economy. Your economy was like Greece. You know, like y'all have great tourism, but we're not gonna act like Italy has been the cleanest country ever because we're not gonna act like Italy was dirty because the Africans were over there. Italy, France has always been dirty. Don't forget, it was the Moors that taught y'all how to be clean. Um, that's false. IEE. The Moors, the Moors were exiled out of Europe 700 years ago. So they were in your country. They did conquer your country. They did build the infrastructure of your country. It's just you didn't know how to. You don't know how to. The thing about your people, and I'm just talking about Europeans. They didn't know how to. They didn't know how to keep it in good shape. You know, like the Africans built Europe, but look how long it took y'all to destroy it. Y'all went through the Black Plague. Y'all went through the syphilis shit. Y'all was sleeping with the animals. It's just the Moors had to come over, and this is why a lot of Moors. And you know what? IEE, you might have Moorish blood. That's why a lot of the whites didn't never accept you for a very long time because they said you had nigger blood. The nigger blood came from the Moors. No, but this is why a lot of Moors look down on Europeans because they said, and we seen the video like this, and this is why St. Michael's went crazy on me. But the Moors said that you sleeping with these white Europeans is bestiality. You know, y'all were uncivil. You're talking about get these people out my country, and you just had the country a little bit under 1,000 years. How is it your country and there was already Africans or Moors there? Because a lot of Moors were Hebrew. I love how you just say things as if they are. If I'm wrong, I apologize. This is a show. I'm gonna tell you this, IEE. This is a show. This is a show that you know what. If you're right and you have the facts, I apologize. Oh, thank you for the great. Thank you for the free receipts that I didn't have. But the Moors were already in Europe. The Moors were already in Asia. You gotta understand too, IEE. The white race isn't that old. That you are a very young race. You know, for example, the African race. I'm talking about anybody who has melanin. Their genetics is millions of years old. The white race is probably like 200,000 or 300,000 years old. That's how old your race is, like 200,000 or 300,000 years old. You haven't even hit a million yet. You know, like I said, this isn't no shade, but this is reality. Man, you don't see my book collection up over here and stuff like that. I get busy, man. But like I said, IEE, thank you for the conversation, but yeah, you an Ellis Island baby, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, let's listen to
Thing.
this
But I
conversation.
said that I would love to talk to you because number one, I told you this, is that I think you're really smart. And I think that with that comes in a real responsibility. And you have an audience. And I have a friend whose son is my daughter's age, maybe 28, your age. And he's really smart. And he is a big fan of yours. And so by virtue of the relationship,
Hey, IEE, I hope you subscribe too, man. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, man. It was a great conversation I had with you, man. It was, and I'm gonna say this: this isn't about to like trying to clown you and be like, "Aha, I'm right." It's just a conversation. So don't think too much into it. We're gonna If you come back on the show, we're gonna have a lot more conversations to talk about.
I got to learn what it is why he is a fan of yours. And none of it has to do with, I would hope you agree, like really egregious things that you've said in the past about the Holocaust or about,
Do the Jews ever talk about the 100 million whites that died in World War II? Or do they just bitch and moan about the so-called 6 million Jews that died?
And so it's just not.
That's what I don't get. Jewish people are white. We walked right into the North America and made it ours. We had slavery. Um, IEE, you kind of just made my point when I said you are uncivilized. Remember I said when I said the Moors had to teach you the stuff because you were being uncivilized, like sleeping with animals, sleeping in the barns with animals, not washing up. Like Prince was it Queen Elizabeth? She was only what I heard she only washed up twice in her whole life. She thought dirty was being clean, you know? This is your history. If I'm wrong, you could tell me I'm wrong. I'm just telling you, a lot of these people were catching diseases. This is why you had the Black Plague. Like, let me ask you a question. Other in this times now, because you know that a lot of the white supremacists, and I'm not calling you a white supremacist, but the white supremacists controls a lot of the infrastructure that goes around in this world. Um, and that's how certain diseases are spread. But when everybody was separated, a lot of y'all was catching diseases. You know, a lot of y'all infrastructure wasn't infrastructure. Y'all was sleeping in caves because you was scared of the sun. The sun was killing you. Robin, the Black Plague came from y'all not being clean. Y'all were dirty. And it's all right. There was some. You go to Africa, niggas. We heard Cameron call Africans. He said Africans stink, and like everybody has their dark side to everything. Robin, you don't have to. You don't have to defend that shit. You know, almost, almost as stupid as Italians.
Nice to poke holes in it and say it's not 6 million.
6 million? I don't think so.
and I don't even know, I think I've heard you since kind of rescind a lot of that.
You concede that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust.
Possibly more. Possibly, we're discovering all the time. So it could maybe even be more than that.
But what he agrees with is kind of the anger about the situation that particularly your generation finds yourself in. I know that to be real. And I think that there, maybe my reasons for recognizing that anger as being legitimate.
You want to look at Africa? Charity begs for my money because of Africa. So I will say this, IEE. The reason why Africa is fucked up is because of white people. The Berlin Conference, look that shit up. Africa didn't have countries. They had tribal land. But Africa, we have to blame Africa too because they wanted to lay in the bed with the white man. And you just took their country after you helped them. Well, Africa was the reason why there was a slave trade. But You took their land because you're very untrustworthy. You are treaty breakers. You know, if somebody got more than you want to destroy it, and you always want to be on the top. You're always in somebody's business. That's what y'all do. But yeah, your people destroyed Africa. Thank God for the Black American who went over to Ethiopia and saved Ethiopia from your peoples in Italy, because Italy was trying to take Ethiopia. Hmm.
And my targets are different than yours. I just wanted to hear from you. When you say you were canceled by the right
Have a
in
good one,
2016.
Ali.
Yes.
I almost felt like in preparing to meet you now is that your reaction to that was to just dig deeper and deeper into kind of the outsider kind of radical say anything for the purpose of generating the attention to build an audience. Is that true? And it's not an accusation. I really mean it. I want this to be a conversation as much as possible.
I mean, there's certainly some truth to that, but I think that might be overstating it a little bit, because I really got canceled by the right and the left.
Yeah.
And back in those days in 2017, you had these far left journalists at Huffington Post, Right Wing Watch, ADL, SPLC, and I really believe they were on a mission to find extremist rhetoric, the white nationalist, neo-Nazi boogeyman, all that kind of stuff. And they would look at someone like myself, 18, and if I was being serious or joking, things taken out of context, they would clip it, post it, and they wanted me to be the villain.
I will say this to Nick Fuentes: you still got to be cautious of your words. You know, because those are the years you were saying far out fucked up shit, and there were a group that you said the wrong shit to, and they sat you the fuck down, man. You know, this is the thing when you don't own your own platforms and shit like that, and your own apps and shit. Like me, I don't own YouTube, but I still gotta respect the laws of YouTube. I can't be like, oh well, fuck YouTube. I'm gonna say what I want to know. It doesn't work like that. You know, once you start getting your own, once you start making money and putting your money towards certain things, and you can make an app where you can say shit like that. Like, look at what's his name, Elon. He bought Twitter for 88 billion. No, all those rules that was canceling people and stuff. He opened the doors for people. So it's just Nick Fuentes was one of those type of people. I'm white and I say so, and it fucked him over. You know.
And I think they wanted a lot of people to be the villain. I think the left, in a way, kind of created this climate where I think they pushed a lot of people farther to the right.
No, by the way,
canceling them.
that very well may be true, but you gave him a lot of ammunition.
That's true.
I mean,
Yeah,
I hope that some of those things that you said in the past are not things that you believed in and that are you meant just to engender like a really radical kind of response. I mean, is that true or not?
Well, again, I think that back.
It's not about so IEE. It's not about being free. It's about you're free. You could do whatever you want, but there's consequences to shit. There's consequences. You can't just go out here just doing whatever you want. There's laws and structure. If you want to break those laws, be my guest. You can break those laws, but you want to play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, man. Like I said, it's not about like you can say whatever you want, but you still gonna have to reap what you sow, my nigga. You're gonna still have to. You are still gonna have to deal with the consequences. You know. And that's what you have to understand. There are consequences where anything I say, IEE, there is a consequences to it. No matter if it's a good consequence or a bad consequences. There's a consequences to it. Or there's a reaction. We can say reaction. You know, it's not even about being a mental slave, you know. It's just it's a personally to me, it just seems like a lot of people are not responsible. People are doing a lot of stupid shit to not say that I can do it. It's not being responsible. You know, like even what's the shit? The January 7th thing, that shit was irresponsible. That shit was reckless. People could have died for the shit that people were doing. You know, so now when Ashley Babbitt gets sent up to her fucking ancestors, everybody wants to say, "Oh, you know, this was unjustly." How the fuck is that unjustly when you're breaking the law? That's your freedom of that shit is crazy. Those are very important people that runs this country. Even though if I like them or dislike them, we can't do shit like that. You know, bad stuff about white people that's untrue, but you don't expect any violence. This is the thing. You can do whatever you want to do, i.e. I'm not trying to tell you not to, but you're gonna have to suffer the consequences of the stuff that happens. You know? Ashley Babbitt thought she was fighting for something. Now she's underground. You know, they sent her to her ancestors. She's with Austin Metcalf right now. So because you know what? They couldn't do anything peacefully. They thought running up in the White House, running up in the Capitol Hill, breaking windows, doing all this extra shit was freedom of speech or freedom to protest, if we can say. Ashley Babbitt got what she deserved because she should have never been doing the shit that she was doing or even being around that type of environment. You know, now her parents is crying, talking about this is unjustly. And we have to say Michael Byrd was a freedom fighter. He was a freedom fighter. He was protecting those people that paid their taxes, that runs cities, states, towns. What's going on, Dorsey? Yeah, you just can't do shit like that, IEE, and not think that you will get shot. You won't get shot. Yeah, niggas will put you on the ground for lesser shit than that.
Back in those days, you could not say anything. In 2017, 2018, cancel culture was so in overdrive. Any joke, any edgelording, anything like that, they would, first of all, there was no sense of humor.
I'm so old. I don't even. What's
Okay, well, to break it
edgelording?
down for you, so the dawn of wokeness, as it's known today, I think was in like the
Okay, let me ask you a question, IEE. What was her running up in Capitol Hill? What was that going to prove? Breaking windows, destroying property, going into people's office, destroying people's office. What was that going to prove? It proves that we should call the National Guard and let them handle it. What would that prove? You know? And I know you got this Mayo syndrome, I call it. I call it Mayo syndrome. When you see a blonde hair, blue eyes just crying and you don't even know what the fuck they're crying about, it gives you something to go over there and protect that woman. You know? There's some broken black people that got that shit, especially immigrants. They feel like they gotta go over there and protect that white girl from everything. Everything and anything. But the shit that y'all did in that Capitol Hill was some nigga shit. It was nigga shit. This isn't the Boston Tea Party. We're not fighting the British is not coming. The British is coming. They're not coming. You just did some treasonous shit. You should have been in jail longer than that. Not you, IEE, but the people who did that shit should be in jail longer than that. But let's finish this.
the post-Trump era. After Trump won the election in 2016, there was a big movement to deplatform and kind of push away those who, I guess the left feel like had galvanized them into the presidency. So there was this big idea that if you push people off mainstream social media platforms, they would go away. Now we know through Trump's reelection, that's not even true. But at the time, that was the mantra. Problematic viewpoints needed to be silenced, tucked away somewhere, and they would just sort of die in isolation. So I think that was the climate where you first got started, 2017. That time period was like crucial for getting people off mainstream platforms. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I would say that you got to get into the psychology of those days. It felt like anybody that wasn't on board with the most progressive agenda had no options. There was just no alternative. It was going to be progressive, liberal,
Nah, my show was YouTube canceled my show because I had some type of shit on it where I should have never had on it. So yeah, it was we got decent numbers, but I wanted to do a longer show than that.
feminist, BLM, all that kind of stuff. And if you were to the right of John McCain, you're no platformed. Censored, banned from all the platforms, you're fired from your job, you're ostracized socially. And I think what happened really in 2021 when Trump got banned from the platforms is it felt like 70 million people got canceled. 70 million people that voted for Trump, or 60, 70 million people, we were all felt like, oh, so if Trump is out of politics and we're all banned from the platforms, then how is there any redress for our grievances? Do we just have to shut up and get with the program and we're all going to be progressive? And I think that drove people to a far more radical place where people said, well, what really is a solution? We can't talk. We can't express ourselves. We can't participate in the process or run for office. And I was one of the people saying that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to drive people to extremism. If you don't talk, if people don't feel like they have a seat at the table and enfranchisement, I think then they start exploring options outside the system, outside of the political process, the democratic process. So I think it's self-inflicted in many ways.
So you feel like after the mass deplatforming in 2021, whenever people on the right got pushed to platforms like Parler, Gab, Rumble, etc., the lack of discourse and like the political singularity of those platforms created more extremism?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because look, you take Trump off of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I predicted this in 21. I said, watch, you're going to see alternative social media rise because some venture capitalist is going to see there's a huge market of 70 million people that are going to follow Trump because Trump is no platformed. And that's exactly what happened. Rumble blew up, Elon bought Twitter, and what happened when you had total free speech on these platforms? Well, Twitter now resembles 4chan. And now, there's no gatekeepers. And I think it did push people in a radical direction. And honestly, people are even blowing past me. Now there's like mainstream, norm.
I agree with this part where Nick. I think the liberals have done that. They even done that towards Black Americans where Black Americans is asking them questions like, yo, what do we benefit of voting for a Democrat? Even a person like me, I asked a Democrat that, and they said, oh, well, we're doing this for people of color. And I'm like, I'm not talking about people of color. I'm talking about Black Americans specifically as a collective. What are you doing for Black Americans collectively? And they did the was it Kamala Harris thing. And I say, best of luck to you. That's what I said. Best of luck to you, because I'm not gonna vote for you if you're doing stuff. Because I know what this is gonna turn into. It's gonna turn into you not doing enough for Black Americans, and Black Americans is gets the short end of the stick. At least with the Republicans, and a lot of us didn't vote. That's why Trump won technically. And this is what I'm gonna say. The white liberal and the white liberal and the white supremacists understood that they cannot depend on the Latinos. The only people they could depend on is Black Americans. That's why when all those Latinos voted, they thought, oh yeah, they're gonna torment Black Americans. And not understanding that Black Americans has been through damn near every type of situation in America. There hasn't been no situation that we haven't been through where we didn't have to fight. This is why we're the most resilient race in America, in the world right now. Resilient. Are there some people kind of close to us? Maybe, maybe not. But Black Americans are more resilient than anything because we fought white supremacists. We didn't bow down to white supremacists. Are there people who has bowed down to the white supremacy as a Black American? Yes. But Black Americans didn't bow down. We didn't sign treaties. We didn't say, okay, yeah, we do. No, we fought. And this is why when people say Black Americans are native to America, because we were here before the red natives were, and the red natives are Asian. Those are Asians. That's why a lot of those Mexicans look Asian. You know, but yeah, they're not native. They as Dorsey always gets on me, Siberian. If I'm saying it right, Dorsey, Siberian. Yeah, a lot of those red natives are Siberian. They're from Asia. They're like Mongolians. You know, did they have an ethnogenesis? Absolutely, they had an ethnogenesis. Are they a part of America? Yes, they are a part of America, but they weren't the first. Black Americans were the first. The people that you call Black Americans were first. Black Americans were handed more than 99% of the world. The fact that you can own guns and you can protect your land. White Americans were. No, that's not true, IEE. And I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback. Yes and no. The reason why y'all may even made gun laws is because of Black Panther Party. The reason why you have to take a bar exam to be a lawyer is because of black people, because y'all didn't want black lawyers. The reason why, and I'm going to say this is the reason why Kim Kardashian is not a lawyer right now, because she can't pass the bar exam, is because of y'all. Y'all didn't want black Americans to pass, y'all didn't want black American lawyers, because that would have helped black Americans know the laws and would have got them out of jail 3 times more than they are getting out of jail now. Because don't forget, it's like 65-75% of black American men being exonerated. So we can't act like that shit ain't true. But you are right, but you are wrong at the same time. I had to give you a little bit of pushback from that. But you, to a certain extent, you're kind of right. About the gun laws and all that other stuff, but we were the ones that really actually fought for those rights for you to even have a gun, IEE, because they didn't want to give you a gun because they didn't consider you white. IEE, you got to remember that too. The times that you're talking about, they didn't consider you white because you're Italian. They consider you wops without papers. And you know me, I'm not being disrespectful, but I do have to tell that side of the story. It wasn't like, oh yeah, y'all niggas just got off of Ellis Islands, and the white Americans was like, yeah, come over here, come with us, man. We're gonna help you out. We're gonna feed you some pasta and some linguine over here. We got Mario over here with the lasagna. No, these niggas was fucking y'all up. These white people were fucking y'all up. They were making racial jokes to y'all, saying that y'all are niggers. Yes, they used to call y'all niggers because they say y'all have Moorish blood. Yeah, the reason why y'all have dark skin, because a lot of y'all can have tans, is because of the Moors. Yeah. Oh yes, some of y'all were Anglo-Saxons, yes, but the Moors were fucking. I'm gonna have to tell you that, IEE. The Moors were fucking. Yeah.
Me types that are even blowing past me in terms of how radical they are. People start saying things like, there's no political solution, there's going to be a civil war, we need a revolution. And I think that's because the message from the left was,
What's
you're
going on,
crushed.
Jeff?
You have no options, you can't win, there's no alternative. Trump is going to be indicted and charged and can't run. You can't be on Twitter, you can't have a job. And so people started to say, okay, well, we still exist. We're still here, we still have these concerns. What do we do now? And then people start to say, well, we need a revolution. And I'm one of the only people saying, no, we should still engage in the process and talk with each other. And it's not all one-sided. I think there's problems on the left and the right, but I certainly think it takes two to tango.
Okay, so there, we agree. I think that there are problems on the left and the right, and I don't disagree with some of.
No, IEE, that wasn't true. The Moors were civil. You're the reason. They're the reason why y'all have that great infrastructure that y'all have in Italy. You know, they were the ones that civilized you because y'all were living in caves, in the barns, not taking care of yourself, not cleaning yourself. Um, so you have to thank the Moors. In America, don't forget, damn near 50% of all inventions was created or had a hands in by a black man. Don't forget it. Without the black natives, y'all motherfuckers was on the verge of eating each other. They just stopped that law in the 70s of y'all eating people. The only law I think that's in, I think it's like Idaho. That law that they never changed was in Idaho. You know, so it's. I will say this. Yeah, the Moors wasn't out there violating you because it was like to them, the Moors that to them sleeping with y'all, it was like bestiality. That's what they looked at it as. You know, they consider y'all uncivilized and beast. You know, don't forget, and this is. I'm not saying this, all right. I want you to understand. I'm not saying this, but what I have read, they said that y'all was walking on all fours. You know, they say y'all was walking on all fours in the cave, and they taught y'all how to walk on twos. You know, I'm not saying that. Do I believe it? I don't give a fuck. That is, y'all walking on twos now, I guess. But I didn't say this. The Moors, you know, wrote that about y'all. Are the Moors lying? That's what I'm gonna ask you. Do you think the Moors were lying when they were saying that?
The things that you just said, I guess I just came to a different conclusion that there are some things that people should be deplatformed for. Not that they can't say it where they want to say it, but I think that it's a right of anybody.
Okay, top three things. What do you think?
There's a difference between being able to say that you're proud of your white heritage and also being just a flat out racist. I think that there's a difference between saying you're proud of your Christian heritage and the white culture from what you come from and Nazis, or that you adopt the Nazism as a legitimate ideology. I think that there's a difference between saying that you disagree with the United States policy as it relates to Israel and saying that the Holocaust didn't exist.
I was like, Mom, Dad, Hitler was awesome. Hitler was right. And the Holocaust didn't happen. And my parents were like, we cannot believe.
Those are those would be
That
top
shit's crazy.
three things in my mind. I know that you believe that some people took you out of context, and I do agree. Look, on both the right and the left, there are these gatekeepers, 100%. And look at me, the mainstream press just destroyed me for 7 years without any real kind of reflection about what they were doing.
We were calling him a crackhead.
Some of those things are legitimate reasons to say, we don't want you on our.
It was. I would say that Boston isn't a real city; it's a slum. Um, I can say this: two can be right at the same time, Jeffrey. Uh, do I think Boston is a slum? Some parts is a fucking slum. Yes, you know. South Boston was a slum. You know, because it was. I swear, I'll tell you this: I'd rather walk down Afghanistan Street than South Boston Street because that's how dirty it used to be. They cleaned up South Boston. I call it Sobo now because it's like Soho. It's all college kids and they're partying and it's a tourism area. Like Boston right now is almost borderline tourism. You know, um, I don't know if that was supposed to try to be a shot to me because I'm from Boston, but um, maybe you need to travel a little bit more, Jeffrey Lobstein. You might be a small hat. I don't care if you are a small hat. Shout out to you. But there are a lot of y'all in Boston. You know, my old boss was a small hat, and I'm gonna tell you a story. One of my bosses was a small hat, and he used to eat a lot of that food. A lot of your food, I wouldn't say healthy, but it'll get you big. Um, he threw it away, and one of the rats got stuck in a hole. So what the rats did, they had to eat out the other rat to get him out the fucking. And it's all right, Jeff, man. Shout out to your peoples, man. You know, I'm gonna say this, Jeffrey Larpstein. Your peoples are the real white people, and I gotta be personally honest. You're the peoples is the real white people, and it might make a lot of white supremacists mad because I think a lot of y'all are trailer trash. But the small hats are the real white people. They're the ones out here making money. They're out here, you know, getting busy. You know, dancing with their little top hat and stuff like that, with their little Jerry curl on the side and everything. People are hating on them. Yeah, kosher food. I love kosher food. I eat kosher food. Y'all niggas out here getting busy while these white people are mad at you. You know, y'all complain a lot, but at the end of the day, y'all got the power too. You know, so I can't hate. You know, it's the laws of the land right now. Troy was an African city. Shout out to you, IEE. He said Troy was an African city, I guess. I guess. I don't know. Y'all talking history, man. I only know so much about history. But yeah, like I said, they both are right. They were getting crucified in that era, and I thought, and I'm gonna say this, I think that was probably one of the worst eras. Um, it was probably one of the worst eras that I have seen, and it was the Me Too era. You know, and I'm gonna say this because you cannot understand something and you can ask them a question on like what does that mean, and they could get offended of it because you asked them what that means. So it was like damn if you do, damn if you don't. So I get what those both of them were saying. I'm gonna let it play out. I gotta run somewhere. Check on
You
the
know, on a
children.
commercial platform. Would you agree with that? I mean, you just said, for instance, people calling for a like an armed revolution, like people calling for actual violence. You're opposed to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm against violence,
Yeah.
and I do think those are one of the legitimate things that should be taken from the platform. You know, there's a lot of the stuff on social media I don't agree with, but again, you know, what started to happen is there was this like editorial censorship where certain ideas were banned. And it was such a broad brush and also totally opaque and ad hoc. You'd be on YouTube, like I was, for example, they banned me for life and didn't even give me a reason. Not a specific quote, not a specific infraction. And so you don't know what the rules are. You don't know what the process is. They just take you down. And especially now when everything is digital, that's not just the social platforms, it's the other ones like Uber, Airbnb, whatever. It feels like you're being denied almost something like a civil right. The social platforms are the modern public square. Increasingly with Uber, Airbnb, the banking apps, you can't live your life without the tech platforms. And it felt like if you just simply had the wrong opinions or you were the wrong kind of person, you were being deprived of like a basic civil right or being able to participate in society. So, you know, and I think maybe that's an area of collaboration where we recognize maybe it is a civil right to use the digital platforms, but here are the rules. Here's what you can say. Here's what you can't say. Here's the process. Maybe there's a reconciliation mechanism. But I mean, the censorship was just out of control. I don't think anyone.
But there were already rules. It's just the thing of, like I said, a lot of these people did not want to respect the rules, and this is why a lot of this stuff turned into what it turned into. I'm gonna say this: could it been better? Yes, it could have been better, but it turned into what it turned into because a lot of y'all didn't want to talk. The liberals didn't want to talk to the conservatives. The conservatives didn't want to talk to the liberals, and Nick is right about that, but Nick was a part of that problem too. Instead, Nick Fuentes, let me tell you something. What he does, he look at black people with a broad brush and not understand that a lot of these black people aren't the black people that are causing all these problems. And he just sticks that on all black people in all black neighborhoods. Because there are black neighborhoods, like I said, that are very nice. Baldwin Hill, Oak Bluff, Massachusetts. Was it What's that other state in what's that other black city in California, Dorsey? Stone Hill. You know, there's a lot of great black towns. Mawa, New Jersey, I believe. You know, it's like there are black communities that are great, but don't forget, every time a black American in the 1930s and up, or in the mid 1800s and up, every time a community was produced by a black community, it was destroyed by the white supremacists. So you can't talk about crime, and you're Stockton. Thank you. You can't talk about crime, and you're the reason why there's a lot of crime up here. That's why I was explaining to, I think it was you, Robin, when I was saying you can't say, yeah, white people got black people out of slavery, fought for slavery, and they were the reason why it was slavery. You know, that's like me chopping off your finger, and I sewed the finger back up. It's like, see, I saved you. It's like, nigga, you're the reason why my finger was chopped off in the first place. Why do I have to say thank you to you? Oh, that's some good information, Dorsey. Thank you.
Disagrees. There's a reasonable limit, though.
Yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't see that as a result of left-wing or right-wing ideology. I view that kind of level of deplatforming. Look, I was debanked. I was debanked before I was ever even charged with anything. I lost every bank account. It took me, 9 months once they, the Trump administration, said that they were starting an investigation into me to be able to actually get a bank account again. And I don't want to tell you the bank because tomorrow they may debank me again. But my point is that those people are incredibly identifiable. I've been talking and going around and I say things like, I don't think we are nearly as divided as they're telling us we are. Because I do believe that there are an identifiable group of people that are responsible for an enormous amount of the discord and division because they make money off of it. I think that these social media companies that are controlled by 3, 4, 5, individuals have made it clear that they only care about one thing. They only care about how much money they can produce for themselves and, the people that hold stocks in their company. Even to
the real white people. That's the real white people. And I'm gonna say this. Do I think Trump is a racist? Yes, but I don't think Trump like his own people either. I think Trump like rich people. He don't like poor white trash. He don't like poor white people. He don't like white people who waste their whole life. That's Trump. And don't forget, Trump has an immigrant background. But as I say, he like people with money. Why you think? Let me ask you a question. Why do you think rich black people can talk to Trump before a poor white person can? Trump is about money. Money don't love anybody. Money don't have loyalty to nobody. So this is where a lot of this stuff comes from, and this is why a lot of people has a problem with Trump. Because he's about money. I gotta be honest about it. He's about money. Is he a piece of shit? Yes. That's what makes him a piece of shit, because he don't care about black or white. He cares about green. Why do you think he sued somebody for saying that he was a millionaire, not a billionaire? Like shit like this happened.
Agree, where we know for certain that they're driving teenage girls to the highest levels of suicide by a factor, like exponential factors, directly related to the content that they're being pushed, and they won't do anything about it.
Right.
And so, to the same degree, I think they, a lot of what you call wokeness was maybe an illegitimate, but a financial decision based on a lot of these
Corporate psyop, maybe.
corporate side.
Thank you.
I mean, by the way, exactly. You know, I mean,
I just wanted to back up real quick. So you talked about certain people going too far. About 2.5 months ago, I visited a whites-only community in Hardy, Arkansas. And I don't know why, I guess coming from like a more like left-wing place, I'm from Seattle, I kind of assumed there was like a united front on the right for some reason. So I'm out there, I'm chilling with these dudes, they're like sword fighting, having barbecues. It was, I mean, overall it was a good time for them. I had a hard time connecting with them because I don't agree with them, but it's all good. I was having fun for a couple days. And
Everybody, we're about to go subscribers only. So if you're not a subscriber, you cannot be in a live chat. So if you're new to this, subscribe on YouTube, because if you're on YouTube, you have to be a subscriber to be on this platform. I don't give a fuck what your ideology is. That's over my pay grade, everyone. I'm as I said, this is a platform. I'm giving you a platform of doing what you want to do.
then, like, right as I was there, I guess you had hit them up on X or something and said, like, hey, I don't want to associate with you guys. What happened there?
Well, that was really more of a personal disagreement with the guy that founded it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's an interesting project, and it's interesting that got so much pushback, this whites-only community, because you know what? If you go to a lot of these different neighborhoods in major cities, there are ethnic enclaves, and it's not like there's an explicit rule that you have to be a certain ethnicity, but we all know in Chicago and New York and LA, you got certain neighborhoods where it is 80, 90% one ethnicity.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of white people that say we kind of want something similar. I don't think there's anything.
Nick, what is this
Well,
fucking-
okay, let's back up. If you want to talk
That's
about
funny.
the histories of, New York and Chicago, I feel like that was also a conscious decision that was made like
I
after the
tell you
Civil
where
Rights
it's
Act.
blacks only. It's in Cabrini Green, where Mayor Daley made everybody that was black live.
I'm gonna say this: there are all white neighborhoods, and there isn't all black. Actually, there kind of is, yes and no. But white people don't like that. Don't forget. I think people forget that there's not that many rich people in the world. I was just watching. I was watching this. I was watching this channel. It was Miss Love. What's her name? Love something. And there was this Nigerian coming up on the show talk about there's more rich Nigerians than black Americans, and I'm like, that's a lie. There's not that many successful Nigerians compared to black Americans. Because this is what you got to do. When you compare your top 5 black Americans to your top 5 Nigerians, black Americans is going to blow them the fuck out the water. It's just, it is what it is. What a lot of immigrants do, they compare the raggediest niggas that are like, who probably didn't never finish school, to the Africans, that the top 5 Africans that finished schools and shit like that. That's like compare the top 5 best rappers, black rappers, to the top 5 best Caribbean and African rappers. It's always going to be black Americans, because black Americans created that success in that community. It's a weird. I don't like scenarios like that. I will always tell people that I do not like scenarios like that. This is why I hate. Hypotheticals. But go on.
The Cabrini Green. I mean, it's not. That wasn't by choice. It's not by choice that these ethnic enclaves are 80 or 90%, whatever that ethnicity is. It's because that's the only place in which they had an opportunity to live unbothered, or where they were told that they had to live because of the historical fact that they could not move into other neighborhoods. You could not move into parts of South Chicago without, being stoned.
Right.
Literally, right?
Yeah,
and so, like so it's not as if those ethnic enclaves are there by choice, and so that.
Also, ethnic enclaves do exist for like specific variations of different Europeans. Like, there is like places that are chocolate. Like South Philly's full of
But
Italians.
there's Little Italy and there's Little Korea.
So I
and
think
there's
the
Little
issue,
Japan.
what I always like, what confused me the most about the whites only community is like, there's just so many different kinds of white people in America. So like to establish a unified white culture with a place so diverse and full of like different regional flavors just kind of felt confusing to me. Because that can mean a different thing depending on what part of the country or what European enclave you originated from. Like for Irish people from the Philly area. Can you compare that to like, surfers in San Diego or even like, Italian Americans in Staten Island? I don't know, everything just feels so different. So when I got there, I was trying to identify what they meant by white culture. It wasn't really based on shared like cultural practices, but more the exclusion of people who weren't white. So they weren't like stoked on being European necessarily. They were more just like, oh, we're here because those people aren't here. So it just kind of felt more negative than constructive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not really involved with that project in particular, but I think that, look, I mean, you talk about the anger that's out there and the frustration, and I think part of the frustration, let's be honest, is that white people do feel like we are being boxed out in major cities in the country, and it feels like, look, there's a little Haiti, and there's various ethnic enclaves where you get that local culture, and they do their, cultural festivals and that sort of thing, and white people feel like they're being pushed out, and they want a space where things are familiar.
Do you feel the same way about the Italian festival that happens in every city?
Well, here's a good example. So,
or St. Patrick's Day?
Well, there's no Irish neighborhood in Chicago. Little
sure
Italy.
There is.
I mean, there's some remnant in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
And,
it's important to note that, like, and I'm not trying to get into like a shouting match here, but as a family coming from a family who did leave Philadelphia in the 60s because of black migration from the South after the Civil Rights Act was passed, there was a sort of like mass flight of white people into the suburbs, and that kind of led to a homogenization of different cultures because they rushed so fast to build these like identical strip mall suburbs that it was very hard to maintain cultural bonds that made different European and white neighborhoods unique around like the 1950s and before. So I feel like the mass suburbanization is also a big factor that led to those like cultural bonds breaking.
Yeah, but why did that happen? I mean, a lot of the suburbanization is because of the race riots in the 1960s. People moved out because of the violence. My grandfather was in the National Guard in Chicago when, after MLK got assassinated, the whole West Side burned to the ground. Yeah. And people didn't want to be around that anymore.
Why were the riots?
Yeah, MLK Jr. was assassinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so does that justify burning down the city?
No, I didn't say it justifies it, but it sure justifies an enormous amount of the anger, the same kind of anger that you feel about being left out, the same kind of anger that you're expressing right now about the idea that you're culturally irrelevant, that you don't have a place in society. Imagine if you were a 26-year-old black man in 1968 and saw your hero be assassinated.
I saw Trump get shot in the ear and...
Did he?
And I saw Charlie Kirk get shot, and I didn't see any cities get burned down. It's funny how that works.
I think it's a very, very, very different thing. I think
How's that different? Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck.
Yeah.
And liberals celebrated all over social media by Tyler Robinson.
Yeah. Who is what?
Who is some liberal guy.
He is?
Mm-hmm.
What?
He's got a transgender boyfriend.
Does that make him liberal? Because he's transgender? Because he's gay?
So. Well, because he's got a transgender boyfriend, yeah, I think so.
It makes him liberal?
I think he was liberal, yeah.
Okay. Well, he didn't come from a liberal family. He didn't come from a liberal enclave. He didn't come from a liberal background. He's not a minority.
This is where I think Nick Fuentes is out of his league because he don't have the proper information. He goes on by biasness. And this is why I say he'll lose every time. This is why he can't debate the Tariq Nasheeds, the Claude Andersons, the Dr. Umars and shit like that. These people will wipe the floor with them. And I'm not even a Dr. Umar fan, but I know Dr. Umar will wipe the floor with he'll wipe the floor with little Nicky over here. Even the Marquettes will eat his food, and these are the people that I'm gonna do a show this week on why people are scared to debate Tariq Nasheed. And I'm talking about these big podcasters like and I'm talking about these podcasters that talk about Tariq Nasheed. And this is, don't forget, Tariq Nasheed is a guy who has what? He said he has a 11th grade education, but he's a historian, Another person who was like that was Malcolm Little, also known as Malcolm X or Elijah Shabazz. A lot of these people, they don't have an education, but they self-teach themselves, And I'm gonna say this: that was that era where you were self-teaching yourself, And the reason why you're self-teaching because a lot of these people weren't trying to give you a chance. I self-taught myself because my uncle My uncle helped like I used to never read books. I'm gonna be personally honest. 20 years ago, 30, like 20, 25 years ago, I used to never read books like that. I would read a magazine and shit like that. But my uncle, when he got out of jail the first time, he was giving me books, real estate books, finance books, stocks and bond books. Then I went into philosophy and stuff like that. My uncle told me about fucking Robert Greene. My books up there is Robert Greene's, all Robert Greene books. I got to buy one more Robert Greene book and I'll be good. But yeah, my uncle got me into reading. I self-taught myself. This is why, like, sometimes my ideology is a little bit different from others, because I read everything, from Robert Greene to fucking Fredrickson to I got an Alexander McQueen book, one of the greatest fashion designers of all time. I got me a fucking Conrad Jefferson, George Jackson book. I got a survival great outdoors book. I got the Secret book. What else? The Jungle. I got me a Patrick Beck David's book. I got a lot of books that are just different. You know, it don't have to always be a blackety black book, or it could just be some just to read, man. It's you know, and this is why I have the shows that I have because I like to read these type of books. Because I'm going to keep it real. If any white people come to me with bullshit, they getting fucked up. Dorsey's already on the bullshit.
He was a Mormon, correct? And grew up in a Mormon household, and he went to a largely Mormon college, and he ended up committing an act of violence, according to the FBI and the authorities in Utah that charged him. How does that in any way compare to what we're talking about? I'm not justifying the violence that occurred after the death of Martin Luther King, but you're saying that that person, this Tyler, whoever his name is was as disenfranchised as the African American community in 1968 in inner cities?
Well, the question is who we want to live around.
I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry.
And
He's Mexican. The nigga's Mexican. Fuentes is not a white name. I'm sorry, Nicholas, but you are Mexican, buddy. And there's nothing wrong with Mexican, but let's not lie. I know this, Dorsey. The only person who ever supported my show that was a tether was Kwame. Kwame did that so he could call y'all a broke ass nigga, but no, a broke ass FBA. Then after that, the nigga went on a run because the gravy train went down because of Tariq Nasheed. This is what they say. It was Tariq Nasheed that slowed down the money, and and now niggas is on a run. And shout out to Lala Brown. She was the one who was telling us about she was the one that was telling us about the Haitians going back yesterday.
1960s, the West Side burns down. We don't want to live around that. We don't want to live around a city
That's
that's
not when
burning
that
down.
happened. That's not when the white flight happened.
It is.
No,
It was
is
a big
not.
response to it.
There's
Absolutely.
100% not. You
Absolutely.
make these historical connections that don't exist. Part of it was potentially, but before that, what Mayor Daley did is made Chicago the most segregated city in the entire United States, other than Boston. When you would come from the South to Chicago, African Americans from the South, blacks in the South coming to Chicago would say that Chicago was twice the level of segregation and racism that occurred in the South.
He's right. I'm from Boston. Italians had their spot. The Irish had their own spot. The Portuguese had their own spots. The black people had their own spots. We had Boston. The Polish had their own spots. The Polish used to live in Lawrence. So yeah. Hunter's right about that. This is where I tell you again, Nick, he has to do a little bit more research. I don't think in Chicago, no. he's talking about Chicago. So so specifically, I don't know. I'm not gonna say yes or no, Dorsey. All I can tell you is they're talking about Chicago.
And so it wasn't as if you're coming into a situation
But
in
he's
which you're
right about
feeling in
Boston.
any way enfranchised by the community and the situation that you're in. And as many people left simply because of the idea that someone was black moving into their neighborhood as the violence that occurred after the assassination of Martin Luther King. So the numbers actually, pre-1968, when King was shot, you had more people leave the city because of the desegregation, because of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, than you did after the riots.
I think that's just not true. I think that the race riots were a huge driver of white flight to the suburbs. I think it's just dishonest to say that's not the case.
Okay, so what's your point about all of this?
Well, we're talking about where people want to live.
Yeah, I know. So, like, what in 2026?
Well,
what's the
okay,
point?
how about in 2020 when Minneapolis burned to the ground? Or how about in the summer of 2020 in Chicago?
Minneapolis didn't burn to the ground.
It didn't?
No, I mean there were
BLM
parts
didn't
of it.
destroy dozens of structures?
If you guys need a physical witness to what happened in Minneapolis, there were many structures that burned to the ground. Not the city, but there was, I would say, between 40 to 50 buildings off of Lake Street in the south side that did burn to the ground. But the most of the city was intact, but it was quite an intense situation.
People don't want to live around that. People don't want to live around that. You know, in Chicago, it rolled on into the summer, and it wasn't, you know, let's say, the anger of the oppressed and the disenfranchised.
So
they were looting. They were looting and carjacking. The criminals.
Are you saying that the problem with the 26-year-old white kid living in suburbia outside of Chicago and his feeling of being disenfranchised is because there was looting and rioting in Minneapolis by black people, and it's black people that are doing it?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Austin Metcalf was that he got stabbed in the neck at a track meet. And the problem with our city in Chicago is that the Magnificent Mile is gone. Water Tower Place is gone because of all the crime.
Nick, in the time from the
Austin Metcalf should have minded his fucking business. His parents did him wrong and told him to mind his fucking business. If he had a problem with something, go get a teacher or something. Go get a teacher. Mind your fucking business. You know? Nobody didn't tell that motherfucker to go police somebody. You know, and I think that was an issue. To me, that's a concern. Mind your fucking business. It's not fucking with you. Nobody's not fucking with you. You wanted to be a fucking bully and you got stabbed in your heart, my nigga. You know, so, and like I said, I don't think if Carmelo's going to jail, he's not going to jail for murder. He should have went for manslaughter because it was reckless. But he shouldn't be going for no murder.
Entire generation of African Americans is that they've been getting killed by cops for decades.
That's
what are
just
you
not
talking
true.
about, Nick?
Because they commit crime. And listen, it's not...
Nick,
what?
That's not true. It's not true. Are you saying that police brutality as it relates and racism in the police force, in the way in which police treat African Americans? Nick, you could grow up here like I did between Wilmington and Philadelphia. And if you were a black dentist and you lived in Wilmington and you commuted to Philadelphia, the chances of you being pulled over by a state trooper, either Delaware or in Pennsylvania, are about 50 times that would be if it was a white guy. 50 times. And so what you're trying to tell me is that the problem in America right now is that a 26-year-old white kid who lives in suburban Chicago doesn't feel like he has access because he's been canceled or he's been woke, and the problem is black people.
I didn't say the problem's black people.
Well, you just did, Nick. You just said
the problem is crime, and we know who's doing the crime in Chicago. The carjackings, shootings, teen takeovers. We know why there's no business on the Mag Mile anymore, and it's because they steal cars, they drive them through windows. And listen, black people are some of the biggest victims of the black crime. But we're not allowed to talk about it because of the racial dimension.
What do you mean you're not allowed to talk about it? We're talking about it right here.
Hey guys,
you have a platform in which millions of people listen to you, Nick.
I'm going to say this. Nick reads too many fucking comic books. I think the nigga reads too many comic books. He don't live in the real world. I don't think a lot of people live in the real world, you know, just going outside and just driving down the streets. I don't think Nick ever drove down the street himself. You know, and this is a concerning thing. If this is if these are your leaders for the next generations, then y'all niggas is fucked. Y'all are fucked.
I think
Millions.
Well,
What?
after Elon had to buy Twitter and open it up. It wasn't like that before. I was banned from everything for many years. So no, you weren't allowed it. You're right. We could talk about it now, but that's only because the good guys
Nick.
won.
Hey, what's up, guys? There's something I forgot to tell you about. We also just launched our own streaming platform called C5.now. We have 5 the road in Baltimore, who's a physician, tons of sword healing, night, or full week about coral.
To being on YouTube, to creating
I'm
an
not on
entire show.
YouTube.
I know you're not, but now you have Kick, and now you have all of these other things. You have an enormous platform. I want to find common ground of how much of a shithead Donald Trump is. We can get there. Okay. What I don't understand is how you didn't recognize that in 2016, and how you didn't recognize that in 2020, and how you didn't recognize that in 2024. Because Donald Trump
I did in
hasn't.
24.
Because Donald Trump hasn't changed. Donald Trump hasn't changed at all. Donald Trump has been Donald Trump since he came out of the womb of a woman that was an immigrant to this country. And so what I want to know, though, is that I don't know how we get past this idea that the biggest problem that you have with your personal situation and how you extrapolate that to the situation of other white kids that are your age, that feel disenfranchised, that feel left out, that feel they don't have a shot at the American dream, is because
Dorsey, I've been hearing, man. I heard y'all been standing on business in Cali, man. Shout out to the Californians and the Californicationers. Shout out to y'all, man. I've been hearing, man. I'm glad y'all ain't doing reckless shit like niggas is doing in Boston. Niggas is reckless out here. And that's why niggas get killed in Boston, because niggas is reckless. I'm glad y'all on code. I'm glad yo. Shout out to California, man.
of black and brown people, because of Mexicans, because of Venezuelans, because of Haitians, it's always other, Nick, with you. It seems to me, and I've listened to a lot of the stuff. It's always them. We need to build a wall. Where's the wall, Nick? He never built the wall. Why'd you vote for him in 2020? Why'd you vote for him in 2024?
I didn't vote for him in 24.
Okay. My point being is that whenever you identify your problem as being something that is other, that you can point to, that's a minority, that is a group of people, that's the Jews.
I'm just glad it's not reckless, Dorsey.
I mean, before, remember, all of us, it was the Irish Catholics who were all committing the crime, who weren't allowed into bars, who weren't allowed into, because you know why? Because they were dirty, poor, non-Europeans. They were Irish. Every time it's wrong. Every time history.
Remember I told y'all that? I say a lot of these cultures, the Jews, the Germans, the Jews, the Germans, the Irish, the Italians, they weren't considered white for a very long time. They technically just became white a little bit under or over 100 years ago.
Is proven that to be wrong in the United States of America. Every time. Inclusion has been our greatest strength. Diversity has been our greatest strength. And I hear you talk about this idea of white culture. What fucking white culture are you talking about, man? What
Shakespeare, Dante, Mozart. We're in Philadelphia, the founding fathers.
Because of Shakespeare's black culture. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's your white
culture. How about
culture.
the Count of Monte Cristo? Would you consider that part of our white culture?
Sure.
Okay. Well, it was written by a black man in France in the 1700s.
In a milieu of European civilization.
So what?
Because you're picking out one example. It really is.
I'm not just picking out one example.
It really is.
Nick.
Listen.
Nick, I'm not. I really am not.
Hey guys, I think we're reaching what's called a rock in a hard place. Let's talk about Israel.
Well, let me respond to this, because you're telling me I'm always blaming the other.
No, Nick, for real. Here's the thing, is that the way that you talk and throw out these historical facts, which, by the way, aren't fucking facts. Okay?
Which ones aren't facts?
Didn't
as it
mean all
relates
of them.
to the civil rights movement in 1968, and the reason why we're out in the problem that we're in is because the Civil Rights Act passed in 1964. Dr. Martin Luther King was killed and shot by a white racist, white supremacist in 1968 on a balcony of a motel. That's the root of our trouble, because an entire people that have been disenfranchised and enslaved for over 400 years.
We're sick of hearing about that, though. It's 2026.
You may be sick of hearing about it, but you know what? They aren't. And I'll tell you what, Nick,
Get
and here's the
over
other
it.
thing.
Get over it. It's America.
Okay, but Nick, you can say stuff like that, okay, without having to say it like that. And
That's not how it started, though.
This is a legitimate argument, but it's, Nick.
Guys, Nick, Hunter, what do you guys make of the concept of community collapse? Have you guys heard of this?
No.
So it's got nothing to do with race, got nothing to do with money, but this is kind of a crazy stat. So in 2019, before COVID, 76% of Americans said they were a part of an in-person community that gave them some kind of value. After COVID, and this year, it was 19%. So I think that politics and race aside, one of the biggest issues is the collapse of social bonds, third spaces, communities, in-person engagement, which comes with loneliness, more time online, and more division. I understand. I feel like you guys aren't going to agree. I want to talk about what you guys think can be done on an individual and community level to stop people from hating each other and to create more belonging and engagement.
Well, number one, I think this. Okay, for real.
Podcasting.
No, not podcasting, this discussion. For me to be able to sit down with someone who I so vehemently disagree with and find some kind of common ground.
But I mean, guy at home who's watching this on his phone just thinking, I wish I could go outside, but I don't know anyone.
Okay, well, here's what I'm talking about. It's all about connection. It is all about actually connecting with people. And I'm not talking about digitally connecting with people anonymously online. I'm talking about actually going out and connecting with people. And I don't have an answer to that. I don't, any of us. We're in look, man, I just think that you are targeting the wrong problem, Nick. I think that our biggest problem right now doesn't have to do with this cultural divide or racial divide or religious divide or the idea that America is becoming less white or culturally relevant anymore. I think our biggest problem is literally an oligarchy that is inflaming every single division that we have.
And
by the way, and they're out for you, man. Just as much as anybody else.
Well, and I agree.
So those platforms that we talk about that you're now allowed to be on because Elon's out on the platform. Elon doesn't give a shit about anything other than one thing.
But Hunter, I just want to say real quick.
Money and his money.
I don't necessarily even agree with that.
Okay, well, you may not agree with that because you don't want to piss off Elon Musk.
Elon doesn't even like me, but I just disagree.
You're talking about the oligarchy, right? Like these billionaires, right? Like the goal of corporate capture of these industries is community collapse. They are trying to engineer things to make it antisocial. They want to eliminate every single small business. They want to make everyone a single person shopper, no carpooling, like to be a lonely consumer who only buys things for themselves online and doesn't talk to anyone in real life. That's what they want in real life. Like all this data center shit, like everything they're doing is in a way trying to break up in-person engagement. And I feel like for you guys, it might be hard to answer because both of you guys are what they call like controversial public figures. Like there's places that you, like in 2018, if you were to go to a dive bar in, let's say, Poplar Bluff, Missouri, you would have been in danger. You know what I mean? At that time. For you were in danger physically in a left-wing city. It's just the truth. So I feel like you guys have been deprived of the ability to have normal lives. You especially, but I mean you in general, but I feel like, your controversies came a little bit later in life. For you, I feel like.
So the reason why he said he was in danger in a liberal city because he got ran out by transgenders and by the LGBTQIA in Boston. Yeah, he got ran out by transgenders, niggas who hug trees and shit because of the crazy shit he was saying. And this is why I was trying to tell IEE that you got to be accountable of your actions. If you know some shit might go left, you don't just say it. You got to be personally honest. You got to be like, yo, this shit might go left. I can A, let this shit go left, or B, like, yo, fuck it. Let me just hold my tongue and be respectful. So yeah, I was downtown Monday. The buns, the city. But yeah, shit always goes left, man. That's why Nick was in trouble.
Like, you haven't even been able to grow up as a normal person. Is that accurate to say?
That's true. Well, and in terms of, building community back and everything like that, the data says that really the loss of society is the fact that we don't encounter people anymore. For example, on your way to work or, in ways that are unexpected. People wake up in their house, which is separate from everybody else. They get in their car by themselves, drive to work by themselves, and then they meet with their colleagues and everything, but then they go right home. Go home, have a beer, watch Netflix until they go to bed. Next day starts all over again. And so, I think it has a lot to do with maybe how we structure the cities. I think, honestly, a big part of it, there's like this abundance mindset with liberals. Liberals want to have prosperity and everything like that. How can you have that when the cities are not safe? I think that one of the ways, for example, if you want to have those encounters that are unplanned or spontaneous, they're going to happen maybe on the subway, on the bus, on your way to work. People don't want to ride the subway anymore. People don't want to ride the bus. They don't
I just feel
like
that
it's
if
safe.
you look at the data, like right now, 2026, I think 2025 had the lowest homicide rate of any year in America for like the past 4 years. I feel like if you compare data from the 90s, like the cities, I get what you're saying, but the cities I have noticed are a lot safer. They're also, becoming more expensive as well. It could have something to do with it.
You're absolutely right. It's what you're saying, Nick, is impossible to refute, right? Because everybody has an experience with violence or witnessing a crime, or whether it's just in their local newspaper or not. Is that I don't think that is in any way limited to only urban environments. I take the top 10 poorest red states in the country, and their crime rates are 10 times what many urban centers are.
So you'd be comparing like West Virginia, coal country, disenfranchised to like an urban neighborhood.
Yeah, in
basically.
terms of per capita crime, in terms of per capita murder, in terms of per capita child sexual abuse, yeah. I think the things that people really care about, things like that, is their own personal safety.
Yeah.
It is not limited to African American urban or Latino American urban environments. It's not. It exists. Carjackings do happen, but you know where they happen? They happen in Biloxi, Mississippi, just as much as they happen in Chicago.
I'm skeptical of that.
I mean, I just think the idea of like safety at risk, crime has been. I feel like media has overblown the level of danger.
Everybody's going to fact check both of us on this, but I agree with you. But my point about all of it is that you can always point to.
So I'm gonna stop that and I'm gonna say this. Do anybody know what type of criminal activity that Boston is known for, like Massachusetts is known for? Massachusetts is known for robbery, bank robberies, home invasions and shit like that. That's what Boston is known for. And a lot of those Irish and Italians used to do that back in the days. So I don't want Nick Fuentes to be like, oh yeah, these are all crimes that are black people are making. No, white people are making. White people are actually probably doing the same amount of crimes. It's just low key. We just don't know. Yeah, but like Boston is known for bank robberies. Like we're notorious of robbing banks. Like, yeah, hijackings. There was a situation when 9/11 happened. When all the police and all those other people were going to New York to help and shit like that, people were robbing banks in Boston. I was in school. There was a bank that got hit up twice, 2 or 3 times in the same day. Just because of the 9/11 thing. Niggas got busy. So it's not like it's a black thing. No, it's a geographic thing. Extortion, yes, we're known for extorting people. Embezzlement, money embezzlement, fraud. Yeah, well, fraud is the immigrants and shit like that. The immigrants, they do the fraud, and I'm talking about like with food stamps and the PPP loans and shit like that. That's more immigrants. Because don't forget, Boston is a very diverse place. Yes, there is more Black Americans here, but we're all spread out. So it's an extortion thing. A lot of those, like, if you ever noticed, most of those people who got caught up in that raid in the Senate were white or immigrants. Only one black guy that got caught up really in there was Chuck Turner. And Chuck Turner only stole $1,000. These niggas was stealing like $80,000, $100,000, and this is the only money that they got caught with. They were probably stealing more than that. So this is why I always tell people all the time, it's a geographic thing. We're not gonna go to Africa and we're gonna be like, oh yeah, white people aren't committing no crimes. It's because they're not there. They're not in that location. No matter what location you are in, most of the time the higher population is gonna commit the crimes. Yes,
reason, Nick. There's never been a time in which there hasn't been crime in major urban areas where you pack a lot of people in. You're right, though, is that the difference between us feeling like each other were our neighbors and that we can find some common ground is the fact, you can live in existence now and by the time you're 56 years old and never really have to leave your house to make a living, you don't go to the community center anymore. And I don't know how to fix that. And I certainly don't know how to fix it in the age of AI.
Right? Because community is like an essential human need, if not the most important thing. So when you are deprived of that, you're more likely to look for a radical solution and be like, everything's broken, we need to try something really out there. So you might embrace something more reactionary on left or right to be like, fuck this, we need something new. And I'm not trying to draw this like male loneliness, like incel pipeline that the media tries to do all the time. But do you see a connection there between like people being lonely and having less friends and subcultural
absolutely.
choice taking over community value systems or community engagement and people just like driving to the extreme?
100%. I think social dislocation is probably the number one problem of our times, because you look at the young people and you're right, it is one of those essential human needs is to connect and have that sense of familiarity, to be seen, to see and to be seen. And that's something young people don't have. And I think, by the way, you look at the way young people socialize and even the mentality, I think a lot of young people have this absolute drive to go to college. Why? It's an extension of high school. And what do high school and college have in common? It's a community. You're in the quad. You can see and be seen. There's sort of like a status, reputation. You're constantly involved with other people. And I think everybody, young people, look at when they graduate from college like falling off a cliff and now life is over. Because now you just have your job, the gym, and going back home, and that's it. And this is why a lot of young people then want to move to the big cities. Got to go to New York, got to go to Chicago or LA where it's happening. And they want to get a condo or an apartment downtown because they want to go to the bar scene and extend college a little bit longer. And I think that's just not really a sustainable way to have a society. There has to be a way for people to still have that sense of community outside of, let's say, college and high school, even into their adulthood, and then into their old age. So, yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems going on. And I agree. I think it drives, even to your point about the whites-only community in Arkansas, I think it is driving these, let's call it ghettoization or insulation of people going into these artificial values-based communities.
Yeah.
Because where are you going to find people? Go online. Go online, start spouting about politics, or, even not just for incels and right-wingers, but even on the left. Someone like Tyler Robinson, he's on Discord. He's on Discord with all of the Overwatch players and all the LGBTQ or whatever. And I think that, there's a tendency there where everybody kind of amplifies some of the resentment or feelings there. So I agree, that's a huge driver.
So for you, like back in high school when you were like first kind of starting to use the internet and all that, did you build most of your community in person outside Chicago, or was it mostly online?
When I was in high school or college?
High school.
The high school, I had real friends in Model UN. That was my favorite thing. So that was.
But you were still creating like some kind of content at that time.
Not in high school, no.
Okay, so you went to BU.
Yes.
Were most of your friends like classmates there? Like when did you start to kind of build your online persona and community around your content?
It wasn't until I left college. So to that point, I had friends in college. And then when I left college and started my show independently, then it was all people online. And everybody I knew was people from my community for the most part.
But your cancellation from mainstream platforms was effectively the same thing as like a community collapse for your personal life, right?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even say it was just the cancellation, but even more just returning home from college.
What do you think would have happened to you, like career-wise and personal life-wise, if you never would have been mainstreamed? Right. I mean, I guess removed from major social media platforms.
Oh, it'd be a lot easier to make friends, let's say, because, being banned on Instagram, you might as well be dead. In Generation Z, that's how everybody sees each other, meets each other, talks to each other. So I think I probably have a wider, livelier circle.
Do you feel like you had less friends after that?
No, I'd say it's about the same.
No, but I mean, you said that like you feel like it would have been easier to make friends.
It would have been easy to make more friends. Yeah, sure.
So aside from your career, how was your like personal and social life affected in those following years?
Well, it's brutal, you know. I mean, because everybody that I knew from high school is on Instagram, on Facebook, and I'm just not on there. It's almost like you're removed from the earth. For Generation Z, I understand for older people, for different generation, people still meet up or stay in touch in other ways. But if you're not online as a young person, you might as well be dead.
Do you think you would have said like some of the more extreme things that you did say if you know, I guess were allowed to remain on the mainstream internet?
Absolutely, yeah.
Looking back, and I'm not trying to get you to like take something back necessarily, what's like one thing that you said when you were younger where you're like, fuck, wish I could take that back?
You know, I don't know if I regret what I've said. It's just how you say it.
Yeah, like,
you know?
Can you think of an example of like when you listen back to something and you're like, geez, I wish I could.
Yeah. So I did this rally in 2023 called Fuentes Rally 2. And the one comment I said, we're talking about a spiritual battle between Christians and everybody else. And I said, we're in a holy war. I said, and we're going to make them die in a holy war. And the second I said that, I was like, didn't mean to say that. It's an extemporaneous speech. So you don't rehearse it, you just say things. And I was like, didn't mean that, shouldn't have said that. So it's always the how, it's always in the delivery that I...
Nick, I can think of about 4 things that I really wish you would take back right now. But
Like
we're
what?
gonna do it. The cookies in the oven?
Well, it's a joke.
But it's not, Nick. My wife is Jewish. My son is Jewish. No, Nick. I promise you. Don't get mad.
I'm not mad.
Okay,
It's
I know. But okay. But you gotta understand how incredibly, whether it's a joke or not, it's a lived experience passed down from generation to generation, whether or not and by the way, not just from the Holocaust, not just from 1939 on, 2,000 years of history, okay? Forget about Israeli politics and Netanyahu, because I think we agree about Bibi Netanyahu. I'm positive we do. And I've listened to you talk.
I'm gonna say this. This is why I always tell people all the time. I'm like, yo, I personally, I don't stay out of the small hat situation. It's just like I said, I have Jewish friends. You know, one of my buddies, he got red fucking hair, man, like the motherfucker off of South Park. He's a wrestler. He gave me my first concussion. Jewish guy. He's from Israel. He went to the military and everything. You know, I don't talk politics with him, but I love talking wrestling with him. You know, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna. And I don't know if this is just a white culture thing, but white culture just don't fuck with you. White people just don't fuck with you if you don't believe in the same ideology. They will like ostracize you because you don't believe in the same thing. You know, I personally, I don't ostracize people because the ideology that they do have, like, like I fucking don't like Nick because he just don't like black people, you know. But his ideology, that's just his ideology. I would have never been like, oh yeah, well, the nigga's great. I would have said, yeah, the nigga's batshit crazy, but I wouldn't be like, yeah, I wouldn't be like, oh, whoa, because he don't agree with me, I don't want to fuck with him. No, I honestly talk to people I don't agree with. You know, like it'll be a bigger percentage of them cutting me off because what they believe that I don't believe. You know, so yeah.
Talk about it. But you gotta understand. Look at me, man.
I see.
It hurts. It hurts.
Does it?
Nick, I promise you it does. When you compare my wife's family to cookies going to an oven, it hurts. And you got to understand that. And by the way, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
And I believe that you do know that.
See, that's where you lose me. That's where you lose me.
Okay, Nick. Okay, I'm telling you.
Well, listen, are we here to talk or are you here to lecture me and preach
Okay, no,
to
you're
me?
right. Let me listen.
Okay.
So you're right.
So
You're right.
this is the
Okay.
thing, because, you know, and I think this is a disconnect. I think that the left and even people on the right, they're losing the young people. Why do people love me? Not in spite of, but because of the outrageous things that I say. Not in spite of, but because I say offensive things. because I, let's say, drop the N-word on a video or something, it's because people are sick of the preachiness, the
Nick.
lecturing.
Okay, I'll listen
they
to what
really
you
are.
say. But Nick, I disagree. I think that you're appealing to the lowest common denominator of thought. If you're hating on the people that they think are the reason for their suffering, then you must be on their side. I don't think that you believe that about the Holocaust. I think you think the Holocaust did happen. But forget about whether or not you think that it is used politically in a way that is obtuse and wrong. But I think that you do believe that. And I think that you have to. Like, what's your cultural heritage?
I'm Italian, Mexican, and Irish.
Mexican. When did they come in Italian? When did the Mexicans come? When did the Irish come?
Mexicans came turn of the last century.
Yeah.
Italians came in the 1860s.
Yeah.
Irish came in the early 1900s.
Okay, so maybe you wouldn't care about something that is like grossly offensive just on the face of it and think that, oh, why can't people just believe that that's funny? But you got to understand, it's from a perspective of somebody that has that trauma, and I think that there is such a thing as generational trauma, and those stories are passed down generation to generation. When you say something like that, they completely shut off. They can't hear another thing that you're saying about this cultural disconnect, about losing communities, about the feeling of being left out or left behind in a world in which there no longer is this sense of community. All the other things that you say. Everybody else.
One thing I will tell you this, Ali, and Malaikum Salam again. I'll say this. The reason why I'm not worried, because I know Black Americans are resilient, and we do not separate small hats from white people. They're still white. You know, and this is what a lot of white supremacists do. They will sacrifice. They will sacrifice. This is a white supremacist thing. They will sacrifice something that they consider weak for the greater good. It's like if somebody murked somebody and you know your cousin did it, but the guy who died or the guy who had nothing to do with it, you're gonna die by that. You're gonna die by that law and say you're gonna die by that lie and say, yeah, that man did it. I think this is what the white supremacists is doing, and acting like they weren't in cahoots with them when the slave trade happened. You know, I think this is what a lot of people do. You know, collectively, would I deal with them? No, I wouldn't deal with them collectively. Yeah, you should care because they run our government, they run Apex. I do believe that. I do believe they're organizations, but at the end of the day, who should we blame? The organization or the people? The people who comply. You know, that's what I struggle with. Ali, I will be personally honest. I struggle with who do I really who do I really blame? The organization or the people that comply to the organization? You know, so it's yeah, I can blame them, but ain't nobody put a gun up to these people's heads and tell them to, do what these people say. You know, and this is a whole thing about being mentally strong too. And I agree with you because know what? Farrakhan been saying that shit forever. Farrakhan has been saying what you've been saying forever. It's just now the white supremacist is jumping on that bandwagon because they're jumping on that bandwagon now because it's affecting them. They didn't say anything when it wasn't affecting them. It wasn't the small hats when it doesn't affecting them. It was us. We were lazy. We wasn't complying. They didn't use guns. Money works better. Influence. I would say influence, and I'm gonna say this technically started working in the '70s. And the reason why I say the '70s, there was this thing called something triangle, where they take the celebrity, the businessman, and the leaders, or the politician and the leaders? No, businessmen, politician, and leaders. That's who they used to take. And whenever you want anything done, you go through one of three of those people, and you damn near never lose. That's why how what's his name Epstein got through a lot of this shit. Epstein got through a lot of this shit through influence on other people. When people wanted sick, nasty shit done and some freaky dicky shit done, they went to Epstein. They went to Jeffrey. So it's so do I blame that religion to a certain extent? I do agree with you are saying. But at the end of the day, we still also have to be blaming these leaders and these politicians for complying and selling us out. This is why I'm gonna say this, Ali. This is why you have a renaissance that's going on now. This is why the boulets, the bourgeoisies, is going crazy. They answer to somebody. Why are they putting out all this propaganda about Black Americans? Talking about we're a hate group. Wasn't it like 10 years ago they were saying Black people didn't get along with each other? All they want to do is fight and kill each other. Now we're getting along with each other. We're staying on code. Now we're a hate group. Somebody's pushing it.
Is left, and what you do pick up, you pick up the ones that hear the dog whistle. You pick up the ones that say, yeah, that's the way that I feel, because it's radical. It's like he's willing to say the thing that nobody else will say in this environment. And then you get an enormous amount of niche, but love from that. And I just don't believe that you believe that. I don't believe that you think that it was appropriate for you to say something like that. I don't think you believe that it's appropriate to say women shouldn't vote.
Let's give Nick a second to respond to the first thing.
I know I talk constantly. That's how I do this.
It's all good. It's all good.
I apologize.
I get it, and I understand that perspective, and it is offensive and it is provocative, and that's sort of what makes it funny. I mean, what we would say in our generation is edgelording. We're being edgy. We're being provocative, and I think that it is that kind of overbearing sense for our entire.
Nick, I'm the king of edgelord.
Well, in a certain way.
Let's let Nick explain.
I know.
The psychology.
It's that overbearingness that my generation's had our entire lives. That's not appropriate. That's not funny. Think of the trauma. That's racist. That's white supremacist. That makes it funny. That makes it different, interesting. And let me grant, by the way, I think that now, and this is maybe a concession towards you, now that my kind of humor has become mainstream and popular, I don't even think that that's funny anymore. People do the edgelording thing. It's become so commonplace and so tired. I don't think it's that funny or impressive. That's a big part of why I kind of moved past it, because 10 years ago, it was treated like sacrilegious. And there's something funny about the fact that you could say a word or make a joke and make people lose their minds and freak out. And it was like an international incident if you said the wrong thing. And I think that's what made it tempting, especially for a young person. You want to rebel. You want to be defiant. You want to be a little revolutionary or something. Now, as time has gone on, I think that's become a fad. Everybody does it. It's lost its power. And I think that, by the way, part of why we're getting less of it is because instead of getting the preachy lecture from the left saying that's not appropriate, people just roll their eyes. Now, when an edgy white person says the N-word, people roll their eyes and go, really? That joke again? People hear someone wears a Nazi costume, makes a Holocaust joke. People go, really? That joke again? It's not impressive. It's not funny anymore. We've seen it before. And ironically, that is what makes you get less of it when you disempower those things by not giving them this over-the-top reaction, pretending like it's some great travesty.
So you think the new counterculture is going to be woke again?
No, I think it's a synthesis.
A synthesis of post-edgelordism and wokeism?
Yes, because I think that wokeism had its
me.
excesses.
Yeah.
Edgelording also has its excesses. And I think now we're finding a middle ground between saying the edgiest thing we can think of with no regard for anyone and saying everything is racist. If you say something, you should lose your job. We're finding a middle ground where, maybe it's tastefully offensive.
What's going on? Black Snowbunny King. No, my channel didn't get a strike for that. They took it down because I had a video up that I guess you get a copy strike for. That's all. But yeah, I know you're trying to be funny. Sabby Sad channel is, yeah, she's from Boston, definitely. I think she's from Rhode Island, but she represents Boston, man. I'll tell you that, man. She been putting Boston on the map. You know, shout out to Shabby Shab. You are right about that, Ali. Yeah, I'll say this. There's a few times that I do have her stuff on my show, man. She be getting busy. You know, shout out to her and stuff like that. And thank you, Black Snowbunny King. I gotta take that channel down too, man. I mean, I gotta take that video down. I don't want to get a copy strike or if anything. Thank you. I do appreciate that. But yeah, it's we're gonna redo that we're gonna redo that show over though.
In small doses, less is more.
So it sounds like you believe in the survival of the American experiment.
Yeah, I really do. And listen, I don't think everything about wokeism was bad necessarily.
What's the best thing about wokeism?
I think that genuinely it has made people more respectful and empathetic. Because let's be honest, 20 years ago, let's say when I was growing up, I think there was a lot of cruelty. And I think there were some hateful attitudes. And I think as time has gone on, this younger generation, they may not be even left-wing. They may not be what you'd consider woke, but I think they are respectful of people that have different ideas or, you know, different way of life or from a different culture. You know, we make jokes all the time about the fact that I'm like a far-right guy and I'm Mexican. People say I'm a white supremacist, I'm Mexican. And people make a joke that a lot of far-right people are Hispanic. And I think that's a consequence that there's very little genuine racial hatred in anybody's DNA anymore, or any kind of hatred. And I think that's positive, but that went too far. I think some of the other stuff went too far as well.
You know, one of these strange things about sitting in a room with these two.
I think Nick is lying. Yeah, Nick is lying about that. Mexicans are white supremacists. They lean more to their conquistador side than their Latino side.
But I guess from high school.
Can you do a little bit?
Un poco.
Okay,
I don't speak it from my dad, so.
Did you grow up like around a lot of Mexicans?
No, all white people. No.
All caps, 60% off. All right, back to Hunter and Nick. Hablas español?
No, not a little bit, I guess, from high school.
Can you do a little bit?
Un poco.
Okay,
I don't speak it from my dad, so.
Did you grow up like around a lot of Mexicans?
No, all white people for the most part.
Did they know you were Mexican?
They did. And I'm not gonna lie, I mean, people made fun of me for that.
What'd they say?
Well, like for example, one time when I was in Model UN, I was entering high school as a freshman. They looked at my name on the roster without knowing me. And they told me this after the fact, the leadership of the club. They said, oh, we thought you were just some Mexican kid, so we gave you a bad committee assignment.
Wow.
But see, I heard that and I laughed. I said, that's funny. You know, whereas a lot of people would say, oh, that's traumatic. I'm a victim of racism. You know, I think that's, you know, it's just a human thing.
Yeah, I always felt like growing up as like a white kid in America.
What if you went, wait, what if you were and identified as being Mexican and they came to you and they didn't tell you that's the reason that they gave you all the bad committee assignments?
That would be unfair.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm just saying.
That's the whole point, isn't it?
And
so
you
may find it funny because you pass as a white Anglo-Christian.
Do you think I pass?
What?
You think I pass as a white Anglo-Christian?
Well, I not only think you pass, I think you identify as it. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. No, but really, for real. And my point is that I heard you do an interview. Okay, when I literally on the write up here, I was like, you were talking about how you were raised on like Mark Levin in high school.
Right.
And the thing that you liked the most about Mark Levin is how cruel he was to the callers. Mm-hmm. I don't get that. Like the joke about the cookies. It may be a joke and it may be edgelording and you may not really mean it, but you got to realize the cruelty to it. And without going like, oh, like, you know, whan, like, you know, people got to stop crying about the past. And that's the thing, is that I think that you have such an opportunity to talk to a generation of disaffected, angry, legitimately angry people in a way in which is is positive without having to do that shit. And by the way, and I'm not holding you responsible for the end of my conception of Western civilization, which is different than yours. But I just don't get it. I don't get why you find the cruelty. And I think that, by the way, that's why you like Trump. I mean, I'm making, like a very unfair leap, because his first instinct is cruelty. His first instinct is to find the fault in the other. About everything, by the way. It's not his fault that we're in a war with Iran, that he's ended 38 times and started 39. It's not his fault that inflation's high. It's not his fault that the wall didn't get built. It's not his fault that ICE is killing people on the streets in these places. It's just the cruelty of it. Maybe it's a generational thing. I got friends who are Jewish that are going to be really, really fucking pissed off that I'm sitting next to you. And what do I tell them? What do I tell them why it's okay for me to sit and have this conversation with you?
I guess I just have such a different opinion of that. Why should we have to explain ourselves to talk to anybody? And why is it that saying the wrong words or making a particular joke makes it so the Jewish person wouldn't want to watch my show? I have a lot of Jewish fans. I mean, some of my best friends are Jewish. I've had Jewish employees, and they recognize that just because I'm not necessarily nice all the time doesn't mean I'm hateful, doesn't mean, I don't even think they see it as cruel. I think they see it as it's a little rough around the edges. And maybe that's the difference, is I guess it's just attributing this weight to something that can considered a joke and maybe doesn't have a cruel intention behind it. Like, Mark Levin, you got to remember, at the end of the day, it's an entertainment show. It's entertainment. People call in, he gets frustrated with them. It's part of what I do on my show. And it's not always nice, but it's funny, and I don't think it's mean-spirited necessarily, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. So, I mean, the thought that I would, like, for example, with you, people would say, why do you talk?
Nick Fuentes is bugging. This is your culture, man. I can't really, I can say so much, man. These type of conversations, these type of conversations should have been happened, and I've been said that these conversations should have had happened. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that they're having this conversation now.
To Hunter Biden, his father and his DOJ froze your money and put you on a no-fly list. I'd say, so what? I mean, it's just talking. I don't think talking's a big deal,
Froze my money and put me on a no-fly list, too.
There you go. See, so we got that in common.
So a different question that I have that kind of weaves everything together. How do you think, October 7th and the subsequent, pro-Palestine movement and the...
I'll say this. That's your point of view. That's your opinion. Snow Bunny King, that's your opinion, man. I'm not gonna be like, oh well, you don't know. Like you probably never been to Boston a day in your life, So it's yeah, he can't. Yeah, he can't stay away. He loves my channel, Like I said, I give him a platform to be a fucking idiot, So it's, and get good education, and research and topics to talk about and stuff like that. Oh, Snow Bunny King, I think you're gonna like Thursday's episode. I will tell you that. I don't usually do Tuesday shows. I'm doing a Tuesday show today because, I'm doing a Tuesday show today because of Monday. So this is why I'm doing this show today. But you're gonna like the Thursday show. The Thursday show, I'm gonna say this: why are immigrant podcasters and immigrant and Pan Africans are scared to go on Tariq Nasheed show? No, to debate. No, why are immigrants and Pan Africans scared to debate Tariq Nasheed? That's what it's gonna be. Why would I go anywhere near Boston? Only weirdos live in Boston. The best thing out of Boston was Bill Russell. Bill Russell. If you're talking basketball, Bill Russell, you got Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano, he went 49-0 until Floyd beat his record. What else you got? You got Oak Bluff for black people. If you don't know what Oak Bluff is, technically, well, you're an immigrant, so you don't know nothing about Oak Bluff. Oak Bluff used to be, it used to call Inkwell, and it used to be a black, I don't want to say conservative, but who's it? Why would I be in Africa? I am an educated African American. Yeah, you're an African American. Yes, I agree with that. Should you be enough? Correct, correct. But yeah, let me ask you a question. Since you're all this educated Africa, won't you help fix Africa? You say how educated you are, how much knowledge you have. Won't you put your knowledge to good work and fix Africa, Snow Bunny King? And I'm just asking the question. Why don't you do it? I know you get mad at me when I ask these questions, but I'm asking these questions because I want to know why don't you help Africa fix Africa? Let me ask you a question. Why don't Africa help Jamaica fix Jamaica? Your country's fucked up right now, and a lot of those people about to get sent back, but nobody's not helping your country, Snow Bunny King.
Online worlds it created led to a growing audience on the right.
October 7th in particular.
Yeah.
Well, I think it highlighted and brought to the forefront how captured the right wing is by Israel, which is very unique. I think the Democrats and the Republicans are pro-Israel, but the Republican Party has this inextricable institutional connection with the Israel lobby, with this Likud government in particular. And I think people just started to see the hypocrisies. The hypocrisy was brought to the forefront, which is America first, but not with Israel. No new wars except for with Iran.
Under Trump, we will have no more wars. No more wars. No more wars.
They said he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. Tonight, Iran's Navy is gone.
We're going to be racist and all these things, but don't you dare be anti-Semitic. Don't even, think about it.
I see good things about Hitler also. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
So I think that on the right wing, it made it unignorable that there's this ideological institutional capture.
I just feel like a lot of straightforward, just anti-Semite influencers were taking advantage of the post-October 7th discourse to push other ideas, broader ideas about Jewish people as a whole.
Come out and say it. I think that Jews are causing a disproportionate amount of problems in the United States.
Well, I mean, I think it's hard to ignore some of those other conversations.
Elaborate what?
I know that it's now become maybe in vogue to say that the Israel issue is very narrow. It's just Netanyahu. It's just the Likudniks. It's just the Israel lobby. But, what would you say about someone like Larry Ellison? I mean, somebody like that, I don't think fits neatly into this, let's say, problem of Netanyahu.
As far as installing Barry Weiss and whatnot.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Because this is somebody who's not Israeli. He's not even a religious Jew, but he's ethnically Jewish and has this deep affinity for the state of Israel.
I feel a deep emotional connection to the state of Israel and the Israeli people.
And is using and mobilizing his power and resources and connections to benefit Israel in the private sector. And so if you were to say, what's a law that we could
I'm gonna say this. That's the whole purpose of doing the things that Israel is doing and Apex is doing. Is to empower their people, and they believe that there will be casualties at the end, not like just death, but like people will lose their job, people will lose certain things and stuff. Those what comes with casualties, and that's just a business move. That's not even like a small hat thing. It's a business move, you know. Like for example, I'll give you an example. When remember the FDA used to feed us all fucked up shit and stuff like that. Then when we found out like this shit is giving us like cancer and shit like that, they'll be like, oh yeah, this shit needs to be taken off, and the FDA found that and shit like that. They already took our money and got us sick, Now they could take it off. They could take that thing off and say, oh yeah, we found what was giving y'all problems, And they already knew from the start what was giving us problems.
pass to prevent And that kind of influence, what would it look like? He's an American citizen. He can't buy a media company and hire Barry Weiss to run CBS News. And yet we recognize that's a big problem.
I just feel the conflation of like anti-Zionism and like Holocaust denial played into the hands of the Israeli propaganda apparatus. Because then they can say, hey, look, these people that oppose what we're doing in Palestine also don't think the Holocaust happened. It's a big jump in the public perception.
It was almost to me as if that was your intent. To lose any legitimacy about any argument as it relates to Israel and the Likud government, is to say those edgelording things or whatever.
Jews are money changers. Bullshit artists, psychopaths, charlatans, grifters, manipulators.
I don't know anybody that can hear you after you say that, including myself. It delegitimizes everything, because I don't think that you... a little bit of more compassion.
Let's try to stay a little. I don't want to do any character attacks on Nick.
I'm not attacking his character. I'm not attacking. I promise you. I'm
no,
not.
But as far as compassion, I more just mean straightforward. Do you feel like the rise in anti-Semitic online influencers post October 7th has given Israel more ammunition to work with in terms of casting everyone who opposes what they're doing as just like a rabid Jew hater?
In some cases, yeah, in some cases, sure. But I also think that's overstated, because I think that, look, let's just be honest. I do believe the political left wants to make the Israel issue very narrow. And they want to say that the issue is this genocide in Palestine. And on some level, they think that the Israeli government is racist.
You f***ing baying pig. You f***ing bloodthirsty, violent pig dog.
And that's the problem. And I think that ignores that there is a broader conversation, and it does have to do with the Holocaust, and it does have to do with Jews as such, and Jewish nationalism and Jewish identity. So to try to shoehorn it in and say, well, if anybody goes further than this very narrow critique of Israel, well, they're actually helping Israel, I don't agree with that. I think we have to unpack the whole conversation.
Well, do you care a lot about Palestinians?
Not more than I care about anybody.
Well, you talking about, elaborate on what I say about your education? I say, yo, if you're so educated and if you're so knowledgeable, why aren't you helping Africa, fixing Africa? Africa needs a lot of educated people. Why aren't you helping Africa? I think you will do great in Africa, Snow Bunny King, if you go. But I know you're not going to go. You're like Shabaka. You talk Africa. Africa this, Africa this. Africa got resources. Africa's beautiful. They don't live in mud huts. But you won't go to Africa. You won't live in Africa. The most you'll stay is probably a week, if that,
else.
So I guess that would be why that they would be like, okay, you're just taking advantage of this discourse.
I don't think it's taking advantage. I think that we can sympathize with the Palestinians while also realizing that, look, I'm an American. And so it's a tragedy what's happening in Palestine, but there's tragedies happening all over the world. My problem is that Israel has this influence over our government.
I'm a newcomer to politics, but not to backing the Jewish state.
And we're paying for the genocide, and we're furnishing them with the weapons to commit the genocide. And by the way, America is going to be held liable for this genocide, morally, but also politically and diplomatically and otherwise. But I think that people on the left, they may be guilty of maybe caring more about Palestine than they do about America.
Nick, but the left didn't cancel you. The right canceled you first. The right canceled you first, and Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire, and those were the people that canceled. They may have utilized the tools of the left, or what you call the left, to be able to do that, but it was the right that canceled you. And by the way, what I would consider a radical right. The Daily Wire, to me, is a radical right.
I don't think they're even reactionary. I don't think they're that conservative at all.
Howard.
Ben Shapiro, he's not. He's in favor of mass migration.
In 2016, they were alt-right.
No, they were not.
Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire weren't they?
So let me ask you a question, Snow Bunny King. Not those places that Ice Show Speed went to. He went to the dime a dozen places. He went to the dime a dozen places. He didn't go to Nigeria. He went to the nice places. He didn't go to the slums. Because we know how we know how Nigeria looks. Let's not lie. Niggas know they eating hyena hush puppies and all that other cool shit. We're not saying that they're not great people, but at the end of the day, there's a lot Let me ask you a question. What's the difference between ISO Speed going to Africa and Joshua Anthony's going to Nigeria? What's the difference? Can you tell me what the difference is? You tell me the difference of that, and we can have a conversation.
Or to the right of Mitt Romney.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean. And that's
They
what
weren't
I'm
Mormon
saying.
conservatives.
Yeah.
It's
My point
conversation.
was, that's who you were canceled by.
I was also canceled by the left.
No, I know. They came along. They came along because some of the more egregious things that you said is edgelording, they came along. And whether you call it canceling or saying like, what the fuck? This is what I call it. What the fuck? Like, well, like, what the fuck? And so, like, I don't find it funny. And just like you're able to say, well, I just think it's funny, I'm able to say, I don't find it fucking funny. I didn't find it funny then, I don't find it funny now. I didn't find it funny that some of the things that, you said about me. But I'm willing to sit here and listen to you because I want to get to this, and this is my whole point. What about fucking Donald Trump?
Yeah, we can get to that. Yeah,
How did you get, of all the people in the world, where you could look at and say he doesn't believe anything.
So for context for the viewer, Donald Trump is currently the sitting president of the U.S. For our audience abroad, the war with Iran was supposed to be over. Now we're back in business, baby. Khomeini had a pretty sick funeral, if you saw the video. So you guys don't like Trump? You used to like him.
I did.
You've always hated him. He's tried to destroy your life.
Yeah.
You guys were cool. You guys hung out once at Mar-a-Lago with Kanye. You've never hung out with Trump, right? Would you want to?
No. Do I want to? Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Look, man, I would, can we get him? Can we get him in the motel room?
So I want you to imagine.
Let's get him in
I
the
want you to
motel.
imagine he's in the motel with us.
Yeah.
That's Trump. What do you want to ask him?
Put me on the spot. I don't want to ask Donald Trump anything because I know, and I think you would agree with me, is that Donald Trump isn't going to give me an authentic answer. Donald Trump never gives an authentic answer. He gives what people refer to as being authentic, but it's not authentic, it's audacious. It's like the example that I give that is the best metaphor for this is that he says he's 6'3", weighs 225 pounds. And everybody laughs because that's a little bit like edgelording, right? Everybody knows that he is maybe 6 feet and weighs maybe 300. And 285?
He's a big guy. He's a pretty big guy.
Yeah, big guy. But by virtue of every picture ever taken of anyone that's 6'3", he's not 6'3".
I am.
Okay? Yeah, I know you are.
Thank you.
You're 6'2.5", maybe. That's maybe. But my point is that the reason I don't have a question for him is because I'm absolutely certain that he is not going to give me an authentic answer. Look, he came into the Oval Office and the transition this time. And he told my dad that he thought that he did an amazing job. He did an amazing job with the economy. He did an amazing job that with NATO, he did an amazing job and that he got a raw deal from his side and anything he could do, particularly for Hunter. Hunter got screwed. Whatever I could do, you let me know. Bullshit. He then went out and he has now since then done nothing but blame Joe Biden for every single one of his problems.
11 months ago, I inherited a mess. Joe Biden handed us over a country that was in very serious trouble. Biden gave us a horrible economy. And I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy.
He mentioned my dad's name or my family's name 6 times a day in the first 100 days of this administration. 6 times a day. He does it maybe 4 times a day now because he has no answers. All he has is a finger to point. And that's all he does. My point is, I don't know what to ask him. Why are you such a dick?
What does your dad think about the war?
Right? I'm not going to get into what my dad thinks about the war. Is it really because I don't want to get into I don't put words in my dad's mouth, just like I wouldn't ask you what your dad thinks about the war, but your dad wasn't the president of the United States, which is a little bit different.
I don't even know if you know what's going on. Just an Eagles fan.
Look, all I can say is that every single Israeli prime minister since at least Jimmy Carter was president, has walked into the Oval Office or picked up the phone and called the president and said, we have to attack Iran. And every single one of them has said no. And they may not all have had the same exact reason, but one of the reasons they did is because they knew what the consequences would be as it relates to the lifeblood of the economy, is petroleum in the Straits of Hormuz. Every single one of them knew that. And every single one of them knew that there is no way, unless you send in ground forces, to end with certainty the nuclear program that the Iranians have supposedly been building. Every single one of them knew that the existing Ayatollah at that time, had put out a fatwa, an edict saying that they would never turn their nuclear technology into a bomb.
The supreme leader of Iran issued fatwa. Having nuclear weapons is forbidden, is haram, which means never we can have nuclear.
I'll say this. The question that they should be asking is, why did they make a bomb or nuclear weapons? You know, that's the question I would be asking.
Weapons.
It was a religious edict as strong as if the Pope had released an encyclical. But what did he do? He kills the Ayatollah. We get a son that now has a far more radical and far greater ties to the IRGC. And what do we have? The Straits of Hormuz are still closed. He said that they're brilliant people. I find that that's Donald Trump on everything. He said he'd end the war in Ukraine on day one.
That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president.
And I didn't hear anybody on the right and say, that's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. He said that he would build a wall. I don't believe in building a wall, but everybody said that's bullshit. And then when he got
Black Snow Bunny King, FBAs are Black Americans. Do you know that?
into office, the corruption, the level of the corruption. I mean, people believed or led to believe that there was this thing called the Biden crime family, right? I know that you know is that I didn't do a single piece of business when my dad was president. I made basically $200,000 a year selling paintings. I picked the thing that was the furthest possible thing away from politics that I possibly could. Don and Eric have done over $1.3 billion in contracts, just in contracts for underlying companies that they have an ownership stake in with the Department of Defense. Don Jr. got the largest loan ever given by the Department of Defense of a company that he bought into like 3 months before they got the loan. Because Peter Navarro picked up the phone and called DOD to get it done. My point is, I don't have anything productive to say to him that I know of. And when I listen to you, and I listen to what you do, my question is how did you not see that before? He was a disaster in 2020. A complete and utter disaster as it related to what he did with COVID, regardless of whether you think we were wearing a mask or not.
Mm-hmm. The question for Nick is, how did you not realize 6 years ago that Trump would be this sort of letdown?
Because he doesn't hold, there's no ideological core to Donald Trump.
No, I agree with you. Well, you got to realize in 2016 where Republicans were at. We had John McCain, we had Mitt Romney, and the perception on the right is that they were insufficiently conservative and that they were losers. All they do is lose because they don't fight. There was this perception that the Democrats are ruthless, fighters. Obama crushed in 2008, crushed when we thought he really should have lost in 2012. That was a Republican perception that Romney let us down. And so when Trump came on the scene in 2016, it was new, it was refreshing. He seemed like somebody that was really going to take on not just the Democrats, but also the media on our behalf. And what's more, you got to think about the mood of the moment in 16 as well and the message Trump was giving. Trump said in 16, it's just me and my son and my wife. We don't have any donors. We don't have any special interests.
More than $100 million put in of my money, meaning I'm not taking all of this big money from all of these different corporations like she's doing.
We're going to put America first, make the country great again. This is a very appealing message. And I talk all the time on my show about it and realizing now that it was obviously a scam and now obviously unfulfilled completely. And you're right, Trump is non-ideological. The message was brilliant because it said, one, the system is broken. America's not great anymore, but it used to be. We can make it great again, but in order to do it, we need to actually bypass the system. Why is it that we never have...
I'm going to say this, Black Snow Bunny King. This is why Black Americans, I always tell people, Black Americans have no allies. You can never be my ally. You can never be a Black American ally. You know, because you feel like you feel like you are entitled to tell a Black American what he is. You know, it's like You have respect for the white man, but you don't have respect for someone you say is a brother. You know, I see what you do to a person that wanted you to come over here to this country, but I haven't. But I see you curl up when it comes to your enemies. You know, you fold your enemies. This is why the HBCU schools is that doesn't make no sense. Black Snow Bunny King from wearing do Snow Bunny King. That shit doesn't make no sense. What the fuck that got to do with Black Americans being a code?
Victories. Why is it that things don't change? Because of money. He said, and that's why I'm different. I'm rich. I'm a billionaire. If I self-fund my campaign and don't take super PAC money, then I won't have to listen to the lobbyists and the special interests. I could fire the people I need to fire, do the things I need to do. That was like a very powerful message in 2016. And after 4 years, I was one of the people even back then that said, look, it never materialized. He did wind up taking super PAC money. He took AIPAC money for that matter, Sheldon Adelson money at that time in 16. Even in the first term, bombed Iran. In the first term, didn't build the wall. In the first term, didn't even reduce illegal immigration until 2019. And I remember the timeline perfectly because I covered it every day.
Again, like I said, Nick Fuentes, I don't think he knows what he's talking about because Obama deported more people than Trump in both of his terms. So I don't get what Nick is trying to say.
It was like in May and June 2019, 20-year illegal immigration high in terms of month over month. But why did I go for him in 2020? At the height of the pandemic, we all thought on the right that if anyone other than Trump was president, you were going to get a vaccine mandate, which we really didn't want to be forced to take the vaccine. We thought the lockdown might never end. We thought that censorship would kick into overdrive. And so we said, really, it's unacceptable that anyone other than Trump would just be a disaster. And then obviously Biden came in, and I don't think it was as bad as we thought it would be, to tell you the truth, honestly. But by 2024, I mean, I was out in 2024 because everything you're saying is totally true. And I was telling people on my side, I was saying he's not going to build the wall. And I know you're against that. He's not going to do the mass deportations, promising that. He's not going to start no new wars. I said in 24, he's going to take us to war in Iran. And the Ukraine war, I said, that's not going to end in one day. Too complicated. We're already in it. And so I didn't vote. I didn't vote in 2024. And I told my followers not to vote for Trump for that reason. And it was only until a year later, after all the exuberance died down and people saw the bearing of the Epstein files, the war in Iran, people said, you know what? You were right. You were right about Trump. Even Alex Jones told me you were right about Trump. I was all in on him. So, I mean, as far as him being vaporware is concerned and a scammer and fundamentally, you're 100% right. No ideological core. He's not an ideological guy. Yeah, it is.
He's literally all about him.
And I agree. He's a cruel narcissist.
Yeah.
And you said I like the cruelty. I do not like the cruelty.
No, by the way, no. I didn't say you like the cruelty. I said I'm listening to your thing, and you said one of the things that you liked about Levin was the cruelty. And not for the cruelty's sake, it didn't seem to me like this, is because it was raw. It was, yeah. And that's, so I'm not saying that.
No, but I agree. I think he is cruel. And even what he said on Easter, I mean, we're Catholic. On Easter Sunday, he says we're going to annihilate Iran, and then he made fun of Allah on Easter Sunday. So, you know, that kind of stuff, it just totally turned me off entirely.
Is there anything that you think Trump can do to like regain the support of the, I guess?
I've been told people that, and this is what I said, Trump don't like poor people. Is he racist? Yes, he's a racist son of a bitch, but he doesn't like poor white people either. So, like, I don't get what everybody was, so mad about. He don't like poor people.
To Gen Z and millennial, right?
No, it's over. People see what he's made of. And Hunter's right. He's a liar. He is a liar. He is a bullshit artist. And especially, you look at what he did with the Epstein files, with the war in Iran, what he did to Thomas Massie.
This guy named Thomas Massie. There's something wrong with them. They just vote no. They love voting no. They think it's good politically.
You realize that if you are America first, you have no place in this Republican Party. Because he said it. He said our Republican Party, or rather, he said MAGA is Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, Randy Fine. He said, and who is not MAGA? Megyn Kelly, Tucker, Alex Jones, Candace. And I think most Republicans said, well, we're with those other people. We're not MAGA anymore. So
what do you think happens, Nick? I believe that we need radical change. And I'm not talking about violence or revolution or things like that. I'm talking about the only ways that you can have this kind of radical rethinking of the system. Like, there's so many questions. Like, what do you think about the Epstein files? What do you think about the accountability? Or do you think that he's broken the system to the degree that we now are basically in a dictatorship light?
No, I actually have a lot of confidence only because I think the Democrats are going to take the House in 26, which I support. I'm telling my people, vote Democrat. We want the Democrats in the House because what they're going to do is they're going to use the oversight powers to bring all the corruption to light. Because I know Republicans will watch this, and when you say, you know, we didn't commit crime, they're going to be skeptical. However, for the sake of argument, let's say the income you made during Biden was ill-gotten. For the sake of example, it's just doesn't hold a candle. It doesn't even come close, doesn't even touch Jared Kushner, Howard Lutnick, Steve Witkoff, Don Jr., Trump himself. It's just a different sport. It's a different game entirely. And I want all that corruption to be revealed. And I think the Democrats are going to do it. I hope they get impeached. I don't think they'll be removed from office, but I think it'll basically drag this administration to a halt. And then in 28, I think there's an opportunity for a clean reset with both sides, right and left.
Hey guys, quick thing before we get back to Hunter and Nick. So these two guys individually have been hammered the way that boards outlays that there's a down with his agent
On the Vance presidency.
Yes.
What about JD Vance being in power scares you so much?
If Trump doesn't have an ideological core, then Vance really doesn't, because Vance is a chameleon. That's not his real name for openers. Never had a real job. These are all sinecures given to him by Peter Thiel. 6 years ago, he's a never Trumper.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
I think that he's leading people in a very dark direction, and that's ultimately what worries me the most.
Terrible candidate.
Yo, don't his younger pictures look like he was cross-dressing? JD, this picture right here, don't he look like a nigga used to wear wigs and shit? Shout out to JD Vance. Yeah, he probably was cross-dressing back in the days, man. And it's all right. If that's what he likes, that's what he likes, man. You know, I'm going to say this. I don't get mad at people who switch sides and stuff like that, because it comes to a point where, you know what, you're putting your bullshit to the side. You putting your bullshit to the side, and you're like America first. You're worrying about America. No matter how you can help your peoples and stuff, that's what you're gonna do, you know? So that's how I'm looking at it as.
Leading people in a very dark direction, and that's ultimately what worries me the most.
Terrible candidate. Idiot if you voted for him. Might be America's Hitler.
I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president.
Now he's a national conservative, national populist. And so we don't even really know who he is. I mean, to me, this is basically a Manchurian candidate. This is a shell. And who is the power behind him? It's the oligarchs. It's the little tech oligarchs in bed with the CIA, you know, especially at this fever pitch with AI. I think that's really dangerous. So to me, him being president is just a worse scenario in my mind.
For the uninformed viewer, what is the Palantir-JD Vance connection?
Well, Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel's very close with David Sachs. JD Vance was given his first job in Silicon Valley by Thiel. Thiel hooked him up with it. You know, the CEO of that company said it was a personal favor to Thiel that I hired him. And then Thiel got him all his jobs at these various venture capital firms, including his own, and then funding JD Vance's venture capital firm. Peter Thiel gave $15 million to Vance when he ran for Senate in Ohio in 2022. Peter Thiel secured President Trump's endorsement for him in 22, which basically got him the nomination and the seat. So, I mean, as far as anybody's concerned, Vance owes his entire political career to Peter Thiel, who derives his fortune from Palantir.
And now he's a Catholic like you and me.
Well, he's a convert, so, you know.
Beware the convert.
Yeah. So do you think that Trump's unfulfillment of his campaign promises was a result of him being, like, compromised by somebody connected to that structure, or do you think he always just never cared?
I don't know that he never cared. I just think that, you know, I'm an idealist. So I think about the ideas and the concepts. Trump is a businessman. And so I think with him, everything's transactional. And I said this in 2024. Trump knew the voters would swallow anything. The voters would not walk away from the table because they were enamored with him.
But I've been saying that Nick Fuentes is not saying anything that is. So now Nick isn't saying anything that I already hasn't said. I have said this before he went back into business. I mean, when he went back into the office, I said, yo, he's a businessman and he's going to fuck some shit up. But it's just he wasn't going to affect black Americans. Like, will you affect money to a certain extent? Like, yeah, the gas prices, the eggs, shit like that. Yeah, it's going to be affected. But other than that, no.
Promises for the donor class, which is Little Tech, the Israel lobby, and Wall Street, the bankers, Tim Mellon, the big asset managers. So I think with him, everything's business, everything's a transaction. And that's why you can't trust him. You have to do business. And in 24, I said we should all collectively say we're not going to vote unless he makes certain commitments. And not enough people did that. But I mean, that's fundamentally his flaw.
Your critique of this elite power structure sounds like vaguely anti-capitalist.
It's not anti-capitalist. Capitalism says large amounts of capital will be held in private hands, which I believe in. I am a capitalist. But I think what is happening is that it's the way that money is used in government. There needs to be a distinct and separate national power that subordinates the money power to it. The problem is the billionaires buy all the elections, buy all the media, control public perception. And so really we're all subsidiary then to the market. So I support capitalism, but it just has to be underneath the nation, underneath the state.
It seems like you have a pretty optimistic perspective on the year 2028.
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28.
Kind of keep coming back to this clean election year. Do you think that's going to be a renaissance year for outsider candidates and outside media channels like this one?
It can be. I think it certainly can be because I think there's frustration on the right and on the left. You see even in the primaries on the Democrat side, it's all DSA progressive types that are winning. You ironically have the same frustration on the left with their establishment as we have on the right. And so I think, in 2028, it's going to be a year where there'll be a competitive Republican primary and Democratic primary. And hopefully the people make their voice heard and we get some new options, maybe that reflect the will of the people more.
Yeah. And so what do you think about somebody like Mamdani?
Personally, I don't like him. I don't like some of the things that he said, like, for example, on 4th of July, when he takes the opportunity to sit there with, let's be honest, not a single white person in the room and says, the founding fathers would look down on us, the working people with their dirt-streaked hands against the billionaires. I think it's a little too divisive. I like his energy. I like that he's young. It's ironic. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
That's rich, buddy. But no, look,
but it seems pointed at me.
I know, but yeah, but the thing.
He was dissing you in that video.
Yeah, a little bit.
Staring down the camera, like, "It's for you, Nick. You son of a bitch."
People like me.
Yeah.
But what I see is somebody is using government for exactly the purpose that you just said, is to break the oligopoly, to target the anger towards a tiny percentage of the population that has controlled the levers of government from the White House down to the mayor's office in New York City or Peoria, Illinois, to that matter, and even more so as you go further down that chain. And so I look at somebody like Mamdani and regardless of his delivery, which may be off-putting, particularly from somebody coming from your side, is that he's delivering, man. You know what? I mean, he's really delivering. I saw somebody going after Mamdani for some of this stuff, and particularly.
I don't think he's delivering. I think he's fucking up New York 3 times worse. But one thing I said, I do like that he didn't take a salary. They say he didn't take a salary, so that's always good. And he said he's gonna put his salary into something else. So you can see that he's taking it serious.
About rent control, And I was like, well, how do you think the middle class was built after World War II in the GI Bill and rent-controlled buildings that created those communities that we were talking about an hour ago?
The GI Bill provides returning soldiers and veterans a range of benefits, including mortgages to purchase homes, loans to go to school. And this really was instrumental in creating the new American middle class.
Created the availability for somebody that was 26 years old that had a job with the MTA to be able to live and work in the city and put the kid in a school.
I could see that.
With the idea
That's
that they
why
would
he
be
probably
safe
don't need that
walking there
salary.
and go to a park that, you know, where the water fountains worked. That's what I see him trying to do. I mean, by the way, it's just so tired and, you know, ridiculous. He's a communist. Rocky Four. My whole Philly legitimacy was just blown right there. Yeah. But it's just kind of, and so I look at somebody like Mamdani, I think, well, he's just talking about good government. Like, what do you think about healthcare? Don't you think that there should be a single payer system? Don't you think that there should be some guarantee as a right? Because I don't know how you make it in this country and aspire to a middle class life and be able to afford a catastrophic event as it relates to your health. I mean, it's over. You're done.
Yeah. I don't support single payer, but I do believe that everybody should be entitled to some minimum level of coverage.
Yeah.
Catastrophic, and that's
convinced that it's
to
a radical
them.
Yeah.
Those others.
Yeah. No, them. I mean the insurance companies.
Sure. Yeah.
Of Jews, Zionism, Israel.
Your guy when I'm 18, 20. It's like, you got to think that's just the age.
Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
And a lot of young people think that's funny and everything like that. I think that it also goes with the medium as well. Live streaming, social media, that's just what it rewards. So yeah, I think that people should try to move past some of that.
I'll try. But if you try.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
For real. And as it relates to when you talk about Israel, the Netanyahu, Likud government, what's happening now, what's happened for the past 20 years in terms of whether the funding to Israel, whether you think it is. It's really important that you make a distinction between that and Jews. Because here's the thing, okay? Zoran Mamdani has a higher favorability rating in the United States among Jews than Bibi Netanyahu does. I think 65.
I'll say that to a certain extent, yes. But at the end of the, but also you have to understand, Jewish people are white. They're white. They're white, so it's. I get where I'm gonna say this. I get where Hunter's saying. It's come to a point. A lot of these people got to stop blaming Jews. Are they responsible for a lot of this stuff? I don't know. I personally don't know. I'm not gonna defend anybody, but I know a lot of Jews that push back on this ideology, the Zionism ideology, and others. One MJF. If you don't know who MJF is, he's a wrestler. He don't like what Benjamin Netanyahu was doing. He called it out. Yeah, he called it out months ago. So it's not. It's like that's why I say I don't think it's a Jewish thing. I think it's an Israel thing that a lot of these people are having problems with. Hopefully it'll be fixed. But yeah, that's just how people are, everybody. And this is where I say sometimes you got to get used to this norm, where instead of like fighting and doing the things you do, you got to move. You got to move strategically. You got to strategize. A lot of this stuff and a lot of the stuff that people are saying is it's not brand new, but it is out of hurt. White people they do feel like they are getting hurt by these folks, but we can't act like they weren't in cahoots or in bed with them. Thanks, baby. Shout out to you. What's up, Auntie Baby? Shout out to you, dear. Thank you for the cash app. I'm about to put that up here. But yeah, it's not that they don't get hurt, but it's. I think a lot of white supremacist has to understand this is a system. This is about money. Build an FBA all day, yeah. You know, Auntie Baby, Monroe, Louisiana. That's where my favorite basketball player from, Bill Russell. But in the building, yeah. Shout out to Miss Bay Bay. Go on, darling, do your thing. But yeah, it's. I don't think it's a Jewish thing. I think it's an Israel thing that they're going through. Because there's systems. These are systems that a lot of these people are going through. And I'm not saying Israel's a system, but a lot of these people are using this white supremacist system. This is why what's so dope about foundational Black American. We don't separate people from their ethnicity because they're using the same system. They're using the same culture. Like there is similarities that makes them different, but with from a Black Americans from an immigrant like from Africa or from the Caribbean islands, it's totally different. We have a whole different background. You know, an immigrant coming to America and a white American, they basically have the same fucking culture because they both are immigrants. They both came from Ellis Islands, and the other one came from a fucking airplane. So yeah, there is no difference. FB, one love family. The trailer parks across America see small hats as their oppressive. Yeah, but they're the same people though. They're just mad. Let me tell you what it is, Ray. I think these white supremacists these trailer park people are pocket watching. They're pocket watching. If they wasn't pocket watching, they'll be calling them motherfuckers brother, eating fucking mayonnaise sandwiches together, doing meth together and everything. You know, it's just because they got a little bit of money in the public. It's super confusing to hear these racist complaints and ask for ally. Yeah, that's why I was saying that this is what's so dope about foundational Black Americans. We don't separate these people. Even in the Latin community, a lot of these Latinos have the same background, have the similar background. This is why, you know, they promote anti-blackness, anti-colorism and stuff. I mean, they promote colorism, you know, and even against their own people, where some of those their own people, you know, are moles for them or agents for the racist Latinos. You know, so yeah, it's crazy to hear Nick Fuentes say this shit about Jewish people because they're white and he's a fucking Mexican. You know, he's a Mexican and he finally talked about it. And I always tell people all the time, sometimes two things can be right at the same time. And I personally think what the white supremacists and the small hats are fighting over, I think they both are right. You know, they both are right. And this is why I always tell Black Americans, we stay out that shit. Let the motherfuckers destroy themselves because you know what? That's what always happens. When they don't have a common enemy, they destroy each other. It's like a self-destruct button. It's like this humming. It's like a hummingbird. If a hummingbird's heart don't beat as fast as it's supposed to be, it will die. So it's like a self-destruct button. You know, and this is what the white supremacists. If they don't have a common enemy, they're gonna destroy each other. They're gonna find what is wrong with their allies. You know, instead of build a stronger base with them. You know, let's keep on playing this.
Percent of American Jews disagree with the approach that the Israeli government has right now. They don't disagree with you, but they completely turn off when they hear the conflation of Jews, Zionism, Israel, and think automatically anti-Semitism, whether it's fair or not. Okay, but you have to understand it, and you have to understand it from a cultural perspective, in which the recent history is only one data point in 2,000 years of history as it relates to what it means to be a Jew, of which there is what, 1%, 0.5% of the entire world's population? Because I don't know what it adds to your argument, or what it adds to your argument about Miriam Adelson being able to give $300 million to Donald Trump and commit to giving another $300 million to get her way, and we end up in a war with Iran.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a valid point. I do think, though, that the issue's broader than just Netanyahu.
Oh, maybe, by the way, obviously Netanyahu has a base within Israel, within the Jewish community here in the United States, with Jared Kushner. You know what I mean? Jared Kushner,
Facts,
who's
Ray. I do
unelected,
agree
not a
with
member
that.
of our government, is having has
agree
more
with that.
control over the direction of the everyday lives of American people right now than anybody that I know of. And meanwhile, all he's doing is building a $6 billion private equity fund with the people he is negotiating for.
I think that's cap. To me, Trump is just Trump is a chump in the front. He doesn't really run the White House. He's just the face of the White House. Has he done some shit that was questionable? Yes. Like, UFC in the White House and shit like that. He has made these decisions, but decisionally wise, he's negotiating with a lot of these people.
And I always say, look who's paying him, and wondering whose interest that he is advancing. He's getting paid by the Saudis, he's getting paid by the Emiratis, he's getting paid by the Qataris, he's getting paid, go down the list. And for some reason, he is in control, along with Steve Witkoff, who is also not elected by anybody, of deciding whether or not the Straits of Hormuz are going to open up, and whether or not our gas prices are going to go down. It may not matter to the three of us necessarily, an extra dollar, 60 cents or 85 cents. But you know what? To 85% of the people that live in America, it means it's the difference between whether or not they're going to be able to pay rent, whether or not you're going to be able to actually put the gas in your car in Montana to drive to your job on the ranch.
Well, and here's what I'll say to you, and this is something kind of why I want to do this interview, is emphasize the message that as far as Jews are concerned in general, I think that it's the same standard that applies to everybody, which is as long as you're patriotic, as long as you believe Americans should be put first by their government, I have no problem at all. And I think that everybody in the country should be treated with dignity and respect and have their civil rights. It's just this acute problem of these people, like you mentioned, like Larry Ellison and Miriam Adelson and Jared Kushner, they're putting some other country before the interest.
I will say this. Nick Fuentes should be the last person talking about respect. This nigga attacks multiple races and puts a dark cloud on a lot of people's race. I'm a paid taxman, and Nick Fuentes talks crazy about people like me. So this is what makes him a hypocrite.
Interest of our own, and that in principle is what I have a problem with.
There is going to be some people who watch this and feel like, all right, no take backsies, and they might feel like you're just kind of trying to moderate, and that now that you've achieved your goal and got a lot of support, you're kind of moderating because your main aim has already been achieved, which is to sort of have a generational run and pop off. So now you're trying to kind of make your way more into the mainstream discourse, but that you'll just go back again into the same sort of reactionary rhetoric once you're back in a number one spot.
Well, I don't even think I'm moderating. And I even told our mutual friend, it's not even a moderation. It's not even an apology. It's never done drugs.
That's because you grew up for all the mean things you said about me.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm on my apology tour. Is that the one thing you did say? You said I was a degenerate crackhead.
Me?
And I have the problem with that, not you.
Me?
Yeah. And
I also said you were cool, though.
Yeah, no, by the way, you said a degenerate crackhead, and you know what? I'm not even mad about that, because I was a degenerate crackhead. I spent more time on my hands and knees smoking anything that even remotely resembled crack cocaine. It's true.
And now you're sober. Yeah, I find it interesting. You also said that you've never drank before.
Right. Yeah, I've never had a drink. Never done drugs.
That's because you grew up, with me. You're like, don't be that guy.
I grew up with you too, and I was doing.
Yeah. You're not as smart as he is. My brother never drank. My dad too. And
I was going to ask you, Nick, what kind of prompted your choice to just like?
And my side had it for my parents, and so cocaine my mom, two of her uncles, heroin addicts for their entire lives. And it just devastated my family, devastated both of my parents. And so I know I have that addictive personality and probably have the genetics for it. And not only that, but I like being rational. I like having my sober mind. I think that's actually in control. I just...
Time warped, not just your generation, but everybody. Because I have this theory that there was this thing that broke for us with COVID. And that nobody's really come to terms.
This video. Back in the day, dated
heroin in your pocket. Everybody is. And the thing is that forget all of this.
All right, let's
I want to
end
reach
the
a
show,
million
everybody.
people in it.
I'm gonna say this, man.
Addiction. I think one of the biggest things about addiction and one of the reasons why it is.
Because niggas, I don't want to hear no crackhead stories, no crackhead war stories. I'm gonna be personally honest. I think this was a great interview. I'm glad that a lot of us watched this, but I do want to say this. Nick, you're not ready for no type of debate. Don't ever try to debate. You got to be on your P's and Q's because a lot of these people are seasonal vets out here. You know, I also, too, I would tell him to be cautious with his words when he say, oh, yo, you know, I'm not trying to go mainstream. I'm not, you know, but you're reneging on what you were saying. You know, you was bugging out. Now you're trying to renege on the shit that you used to say. Be careful with that type of shit too, Nick, because I learned this the hard way. Bias Ron told me the words that you say, some people want to take offensively, and a lot of these people is trying to get you out the fucking pain. And you figure that shit out the hard way. But you can't be. I'm gonna say this. You might need to have to die on that ledge of black people being niggas and all this other shit. Latinos being spics and just all this crazy shit that you used to say. I think you need to die on that sword. You know, you trying to change right now, it's not gonna go well. Because all they're gonna do is gonna bring back up your old shit and say like, yeah, you just pump faking for the green player. You ain't no better than Donald Trump. And you talking about you don't like Trump. That's what I would say, Nick. But other than that, this interview was all right. Hunter won it. If this was a debate, Hunter won it because Hunter knew what he was talking about, and it's probably because Hunter's an older cat. You know, Nick is only not even 30. You know, I don't even think he should be in this type of atmosphere with these type of people and have these conversations. You know, these conversations is over his. It's nigga. It's not you, Nick. Niggas is gonna eat your food. So definitely be careful. I'm gonna start giving my shout outs though. So shout out to Bay, and thanks for the cash app, dear. I appreciate it. Shout out to Howard. Shout out to Dorsey. Shout out to Randall, Black Snow Bunny King, Ray. Shout out to the new people, Jerry Larpstein and IEE. You know, I don't know if they subscribe yet, but definitely subscribe, man. We have crazy conversations and stuff, and don't be discouraged on the shit that you do say. It's just I answer and I conversate with y'all. So, you know, that's what I try to do to, you know, get to know my audience. So thank you for, you know, your conversations and stuff, and hope to see you next time. But everybody, y'all have a great day. I will see you tomorrow, and